All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of LA Sessions presents Men and Cars. How you doing, Willie?
Pretty good. Welcome back to the only podcast you heathens need to listen to ever for any reason.
Other than the other podcasts that we're on, but sure,
Yeah.
It's been an interesting week in automotive news. We got Honda is in talks, right, to merge, but
with Nissan.
Nissan.
Merge in the biggest air quotes possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think eating Nissan is like eating a poison pill, but
oh man,
somebody's got to do it.
And I guess they're rumblings that they're going to throw Mitsubishi motors into that.
Right, to make it suck extra.
That's, and it hurts me to say this because I'm a former Mitsubishi guy, but like, you got to imagine the CEO of Nissan when he heard that, that was like a kick in the balls, but it got the left ball. But then they're like, here's Mitsubishi. Then boom, there's a kick. Oh, there's the right one.
Yeah,
it's like.
So did Honda's board lose a bet, or does somebody have incriminating photos of them with their mistresses or something? Like, why in the name of Christ would they bother trying to eat Nissan? I mean, Nissan should just be left to die on the vine or sell it to whatever Chinese conglomerate, gobbled up some of the other marks. I don't see any logic behind that at all.
All I can think of is maybe, the Nissan bigwigs got incriminating like photos of Asimo, the Honda robot, like maybe hiring a hooker or something like that. I mean, AI is getting more sophisticated, and
that's true. That's true.
Let's be real. In some of the other podcasts we've done, we've talked about the plight of the modern man. What makes you think a robot could fare any better, right? So he's got to hire women, and probably not the AI dating and AI sex bots the world thought they were going to get, but it is the one they deserve. So,
maybe.
I just don't know.
So we're going to see a Honda Skyline here pretty soon.
See, my thing is this. Now, what do you think, man? You're the engineer in the group. I have to ask you, what does Honda actually stand to gain from, for example, from a technical standpoint? Because their engines are very good, very reliable, whereas Nissan in the last, 10 years has not actually innovated. They think maybe cranking up the boost on the VQ35 is like progress, but what are they bringing to the table?
Debt. They're bringing terrible design cues. They're bringing an absolutely lackluster lineup, and the Leaf or the Juke or whatever other garbage they're putting out. No, Nissan's engines, aside from the RB26, which I don't think they've produced in how many decades?
Yeah.
Most of the lineup is crap. The one saving grace was what was the 350, then the 370. I think they just call it the Z now. I guess the nameplate is getting shorter as the potential customers are getting dumber.
Well, they're too broke to pay for extra fonts, man.
Well, they're too broke to pay for proper design either. What was that video you sent me of the Fair Lady redesign by that
Chip Foose? Yeah,
Chip Foose. Yeah, that was absolutely gorgeous. But the thing, one of the big takeaways from that video, and I think it's one of the big takeaways from looking at Nissan's de-evolution over the past 30 years, it's the little things that would have made a huge difference. Like the Chip Foose video, he didn't completely redesign the Z. It was just like little minor tweaks that completely reshaped the entire character of the car. And it's just indicative to me that I think Nissan have gotten lazy. I think they've gotten stupid over the past 15 or 20 years, and they're just not putting in the effort. So, the fact that they're dying on the vine doesn't surprise me. The fact that Honda would want to bother with them does surprise me. I mean, Honda has ranked, top reliability or near the top reliability. Toyota has been at the top for quite some time now until Subaru finally dethroned them. But no, Honda have been rock solid. I've had a few in my time. I've had absolutely zero problems with them. And they have a reputation for just doing everything right and just being the typical Japanese car, right? It does everything right, but it doesn't tell you it's doing it right. And it's the little things, it's the attention to detail. Case in point, years ago, a former friend of mine and I took his then girlfriend's Camry out on the highway, and this was, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. It wasn't. It's the only time in LA that you can drive on the freeway and not be bumper to bumper. But no, we got on a flat section of highway at the speed limit and just took his foot off the gas. No cruise control, nothing. And what we were testing is wheel bearing precision, right? So as bearings have more friction, you'll see the car lose speed quicker. And we did this test a few times back and forth on the same stretch of highway because we were bored. And we were amazed how long the Camry took to drop from 65 to 50. And I think it was on the order of a couple minutes, to be honest. We did the same thing with my Volkswagen, and it was like 30 seconds. We did the same thing with his Subaru Baja, and I mean that was kind of a cheater because that was riced up a little bit, but it's the same. It's the same result, right? So Honda and Toyota have this reputation for nailing the little details right, and I have absolutely no idea what Honda stand to gain from this unholy merger. Again, let's get in a time machine and bringing back the R34. That'd be the only saving grace.
But see, even then, I wonder, like, all kidding aside, if let's say they acquire them, are they even still gonna keep the GTR and everything? Because
probably not.
Because like I would consider things like that to be like a luxury good because. It's expensive. The all cost of ownership is expensive, and people just aren't buying luxury goods the way they used to. Because I saw a really interesting video talking about that, about like luxury goods. Usually, we're talking about Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and all that. People aren't buying it right now. They're spending money on experiences versus like items to buy. And the pandemic, kind of. It kind of gave this false idea that people were buying luxury goods, but they're only buying them because they can't go anywhere. See, and so with cars, on the other hand, you got like certain vehicles that are like over a certain value. Look, certain things are always going to Ferraris and all that. That's different because now you're going into like this thing where if you have fuck you money, you buy, and there are always going to be people who have fuck you money. But we're talking about things that are like, let's say the Skyline, the Supra. These are things that like someone who maybe made the first foray into six figures, they could buy that, right? But there's plenty more of those people than gazillionaires, right? But
Absolutely.
I'm not sure they would buy it right now. I mean, because like
no, I don't think they would. Part of it's because most of this crap is now hybrid or plug-in hybrid or some other absolute abomination. I think the death knell for Nissan actually was when you came to visit. Remember, okay, for our audience, once upon a time, when we rode dinosaurs to work, we had to consume media via physical discs that you would put into a player and watch it on your television. And now we just dated ourselves. But remember, you came down to visit me, and we watched the 350Z DVD. Remember the little intro DVD that they released, and one of the engineers was quoted as saying this was a sports car. Basically, I'm not quoting, but the sentiment was this is a sports car for people who've never had a sports car.
Yeah.
And like I've always wanted one, but they can't. Basically, they can't handle a real car, so they made the 350 for them. I think part of the reason why people don't buy these types of cars anymore is what the hell are you getting for your money? I mean, everything has gotten so expensive, and if you grew up in our era and you remember the 300ZX, or you heard the rumors of a friend who knew a guy that had a Skyline, or the Supras, like these new cars just don't live up to the memory at all.
Right.
I mean, a hybrid NSX, give me a fucking break. No, absolutely not. Like, I refuse to believe that Ferrari can put out a full petrol engine and somehow still be legal, even in California, and Honda cannot do the same thing. That's not a can issue, that's a won't issue. So part of the reason why I think nobody's buying these cars is because the OEMs themselves aren't putting any effort into making them.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, if they have to know, well, who's my audience? Okay. Because if you're doing a nostalgia act, okay, and you're gonna bring back a nameplate. Well, you have to remember, okay, then you're probably selling it to people like us, for our generation.
Correct.
Like for example, one car I can think of is the Integra. Okay, let's be real, legendary name. Okay, it was the only car in that price range back in the day that could give my old GSX stock a run for its money. You know, power was a wash. I mean, it was, but Japan had to bring in their top Type R version though for it to do that. The GSR couldn't do it. But the point is, it had a strong nameplate. But then we remember all that. We remember, you know, if you're one of the Honda heads, you did the JDM conversion, you did all that stuff. It meant something. Now this new one
was the B20 block with the Type R head. That was that was the big hot ticket back in the day.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. The whole memories you have of it. It isn't just relegated to the car. It's the aftermarket community, the actual community where other Honda owners and all that. It was a big thing. It was like, you know, like there's the clubbing crowd, and then there's like the car crowd, right? They do the car meetups and all that.
Right.
You have just as much fun, right? But like this,
it's a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Well, not if you mod your car a lot.
I meant in terms of the door charge. It might have been cheaper to roll into a parking lot.
Right. But like the new car,
have some greasy hot dogs from the fucking Mexican guy with the little cart.
Yeah.
that was the shit, man. I love those.
Yeah. But like the new one, because I have a colleague that has one, and and I'm looking at it, and I was like, it's like you say, it doesn't invoke anything. I'm just like, it's a car, right? It's just another car. See, so I'm like, okay.
No, I'm sorry. The current spec Integra looks like a fucking dressed up Accord.
Yeah.
Like honestly, if you sold me that, I would shoot you.
It's the kind of car, if you won because you went on like The Price is Right or something like that, you'd immediately flip it for whatever you could get. You know, because at least
a brand newish Chevy Malibu.
Jeez. Oh man, I wouldn't say it's that bad now, but like, but no, I just don't see it, and I know, you know, and since we're talking about that, let's talk about how like other car companies now are bringing back certain iconic nameplates, but at an entry level, because like for example, we got Toyota bringing back the Celica, and the renders look good. It looks like a baby Supra.
Yes, they do.
What's the other one?
Well, let's not insult the poor car just yet.
Honda's bringing the Prelude, right? And I assume that the Subaru BRZ and the Toyota, was it the FRS? Was that what it was? Those had to be. I think it was, yeah. It had to be somewhat successful if they're gonna bring back these newer entry level. I assume front wheel drives, because it's gonna basically it's going to compete with those cars, where we're talking like entry level, under 30 grand. And then, you know, if you mod it up, you know, with like, you know, TRD, and, you know, I assume Honda is going to be offering some like sport, you know, mods to it. You know, probably bring you up to about.
But they may offer Nismo mods now.
For whatever that's worth. You're just buying a name at this point. Yeah. Then it makes you wonder, okay, are they going to do that with Nissan, or are they going to kind of keep Nissan just for the single moms with the Altima? You know, like what are you really going to do?
Like, single moms need cars too.
Well, their jobless boyfriends that drop them off at work in their cars do. Yeah. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
No, they won't. So part of this I'm torn. Much like Natalie and Bruglia.
Boy, you're really dating
so the renders. I wear my decay proudly. So I mean the Prelude, the new renders look pretty hot. At least as hot as a modern car that still has to be sensible can look. The Celica, you're probably right. I think it is going to come back as a front wheel drive only. Which kind of pisses me off, because the old Celica with the all-track, the all-wheel drive version, was kind of a sleeper.
It was.
You know, it looked a little more muscular, had a little bit more balls than the wrong wheel drive model. I don't know if Toyota will actually do that though. And I mean, here's the thing. So the current gen was it the GR? I think it was the GR Camry.
Yeah, yeah.
The little 300 horsepower three banger. Okay, whatever. Uh, all wheel drive, 6 speed, a proper transmission. That seemed to sell like hotcakes. It sold to the point where when I got my Tacoma, that was the car I actually wanted, and the guy at the dealership said, "Yeah, we haven't seen one in 8 months, and you're probably going to wait another 8 months to get one."
Wow.
So I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, let's just go from a hot hatch to a pickup truck because that's logical." But you bring up a good point. A couple good points here. First of all, I hate the way that everyone is using the hybridization uh, to get their cars past whatever emissions nonsense we now live under. But I also hate the fact that you're just relying more and more on turbos and wrong wheel drive because let's face it, front wheel drive makes it much more difficult to kill yourself if you don't know what you're doing. And
Right.
most people do not know what they're doing. Uh, but it's also I think the over reliance on turbocharging and continually castrating the engines, and for those who haven't driven one of these small displacement turbo engines, you got to wring its frickin' neck out to get any sort of power whatsoever. It's much like the first gen Honda S2000, except without any character class or performance. Uh, and you brought up the idea of like, well, they're selling a memory. I'm sorry, my memory is still faultless, and I don't remember the cars from the golden age of Japanese imports being this anemic. And so I think they're going to just end up insulting their customers twice. A, you're selling garbage, and calling it, you're wrapping dog shit up in gold foil. And B, if you're stupid enough to buy one of these, and again, none of these are actually out yet. I could be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. But even if you fall for the sales pitch of memory, you're not getting anywhere near the same car. Uh,
Right.
I fear a new Celica All-Track would be wrong wheel drive based. I fear it would be part time 4 wheel drive. I know for a fact that they won't get all wheel drive right the way Subaru have. Because my Impreza wagon was a hell of a lot of fun, and my Outback, what they call it, the Wilderness Edition, I beat the hell out of that thing on every kind of road surface you could think of, and it was fantastic. So anyone that's bringing out all wheel drive is already going to be second best to Subi. But you end up buying a mess. It's going to be a betrayal of the memory. It's going to be some anemic, three banger hybrid bullshit, and you're probably just going to end up regretting your decision. And all for what? Like if you drop 40 grand on one of these cars, let's face it, you can't get even a Kia for under 30 these days.
No.
But if you drop 40 grand or so on one of these cars, you'll probably be better served buying one of the old ones, fixing it up, and then you actually get your memory back
Yeah.
because you're getting literally the car that you lusted for when you were too young and poor to afford it, and you probably walk away with some change.
Yeah, and see, that's a good point because the reality is that's like I think the last time we had our previous episode, remember I brought up the idea that so I had that 97 Eclipse and I loved it at the time. However, come on, man, that was 20 something years ago. When I used to step out of that thing as
Right.
a guy in my 20s, it's like okay, a very that's cool. But if I stepped out of that now, and I'm wearing like a suit going to work, are you fucking kidding me, man? Are you? I'm gonna look like I
Well, I
stole
don't
my.
think your back would let you step out of it for one.
Oh no, no. That's the thing about compact cars, man. You gotta be a compact guy. But like, I couldn't
Even
do that
getting out
anymore.
of your larger cars, I was like, oh god, everything's
Well,
cracking.
well, it should be noted that all my cars were dropped too, and so that definitely wouldn't be good on the knees these days. You know, because see something that young people just a little free tip for young people out there. As you get older, but assuming you actually hit the gym, you can squat and leg press a ton of weight and not even bat an eyelash. But getting out of your fucking car That's where it's hard. Okay, you could do all the leg extensions, all the hack squats, but just getting into that lower car without grunting, good luck. Good luck. If you could, as a young person, you could slide in and out like a fucking ninja. But as an old person, nah, man. Isn't that the sad thing of life? Like you could do like, upright rows, you could do like lat pull downs, but just standing for 10 minutes doing the dishes, your back starts hurting, for example. That's just aging, man. But yeah.
I'm gonna get one of those cushion mats that they give cashiers at the grocery store. Put that in my kitchen so I can actually stand and do dishes without needing a little lie down.
Oh man. But yeah, no, it's just like I say, the people that have that memory, like you said, be better served finding that car used, and I'd like to think that at this point in such a man's life, he's making significantly more money than he made when he had that car 20 years ago.
I hope so.
So he could afford it.
If you're making the same amount of money as you did in your 20s, you've really screwed up.
Man, that's going to be tough, man. Start selling feet pics. But yeah, it's just for people who had it, it's like okay, so let's say you had a Celica back then in your 20s, and then and let's say it was one of the good ones. Let's say it was like the GTS with a TRD supercharger that was an APR that made that wide body kit for the Celicas and all that. That looked really cool, right? And then they put out a new one. I'd like to think that such a person today probably wouldn't buy a Celica. If he's still into sporty cars, he probably, if he wants to stay in the family, be getting a Toyota, a Supra, or if he wanted to, like, if he's more sophisticated in his taste, a Porsche, right? You never go wrong with a Porsche, right? But he wouldn't be like, let's say now, maybe in his 20s he was delivering pizzas, but now he's like a lawyer
or tofu,
an attorney, or tofu, yeah. But let's say he's an attorney now and he's pulling good money. Why would you get a Celica when, especially like you said, like it's the name, but it doesn't carry the heritage, because like it's not the lineal model. Like, in boxing, there's the idea of a lineal champion, right? Where you beat the man who beat the man, but it's not the lineal champion. The Celica's been out of commission since what, like was it before 2010? I think it was out of.
I think the last, so the 7th gen, I think was 99 when it was introduced. And let me see here. According to the interwebs, in 04, Toyota announced that the Celica would be discontinued at the end of the 2005 year due to lack of sales. Because guess what? The people that wanted those cars are probably moving on with their lives. And don't want a Celica anymore. They want a Porsche. They want something, a little more fitting.
Yeah. It's just like I said. If you're aiming it towards the original buyers who were young men back in the day, why would they get it now? They've moved on. If they haven't, then link to my therapy page. I can help you level up in life. But then going to your point earlier, okay, let's say they're not doing that at all. And because if you're going to stick with that name, then obviously you're going off that lineage. Gen Z don't give a shit about the lineage. You could call it whatever you want, right? You can call the Integra whatever you want, call the Prelude whatever you want, because they do not care. So to that end, even if you called it something new,
their parents weren't alive when those cars mattered.
Yeah, and so it's like if you're going to call it a Prelude, for example, then there's certain expectations they're going to want. Like Honda made that as kind of like their front wheel, much like more torquey than the Integra, and so you're like, okay, the Integra was a higher revving model. It's like, okay, but if you're going to make a new car, let's say that doesn't share those characteristics, who cares what you call it, right? And so you're not beholden to the past, and so the guys like us aren't going to be making fun of you. And then if you make something new, then at least we're like, okay, that's fresh. It's filling in a gap. Like when Toyota did the FRS, it's like, okay, it's like we kind of see what they're trying to do with the rear wheel drive, relatively low horsepower, but lightweight. It's the AE86, like in new form. It's like, okay, but they're not calling it that. So it's like, all right, it's not the Corolla. Right. So it's like, okay, so you're not beholden, but you get to create something new. It's like, all right, cool. But yeah, if you create a nameplate and you revive it, like probably to me, the biggest monstrosity, the greatest abomination was the Eclipse that they brought back. That SUV.
Oh, God.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
You brought it back in SUV form? Stop it. And it had the power of like the base model Eclipse, if even that, back in the day. It's like, stop. And it was like way heavier. And so I don't know what that was all about, but ridiculous.
Well, it's got like Ford releasing the Mustang as an electric SUV.
Oh yeah. that was
I mean, I'm not a Ford head. I did have Mustang 2015 Ecotech, which was a hell of a lot of fun. But yeah, I saw that. It's like, okay, somebody lost a bet, or they got fired, and this is their final middle finger to the company on the way out. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, they had Ford had some missteps, that's for sure. To put it mildly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like now, it does make me wonder though. Like, if Honda acquires Nissan, are they going to do it and bring back the equivalent of the Silvias? I guess stateside was a 240.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to do that.
Or if see, that would be kind of cool. Or
do you think? Do you remember the early 2000s? They didn't have a competitor to like the Evos, the Impreza, WRXs, and all that. So they tried to like make that Nissan Sentra their sporty car. They even called it the Spec V. Remember that? I remember my brother and I. We went to test drive that piece of shit, and even my brother's like, "What the fuck is this, man?" He hated the stick shift. He hated the power. He hated the looks. The car, if you ever wanted an equivalent, that car looked like the automotive equivalent of Milhouse from The Simpsons, right? It was dorky looking. There was nothing redeeming about it. It was just this nerdy car, and like it's when you get the Spec V version, it's like when Milhouse was in that metal band with Bart. He tried to look cool. Putting a spoiler on it does not make you cool. You're still Milhouse, all right? It's just stop it, man. It was embarrassing. It's like,
well, I think it was the Versa or some other shitbox that they brought out didn't have a tachometer, which makes driving stick shift extremely interesting.
It might be the Versa. It might be the Versa.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
And the salesman, bless his little heart, was trying to sell that to me as a feature because it was less clutter.
Oh my god. Whew.
I told him he was going to have a lot less clutter in his life when I didn't buy the car, and he got fired for not hitting his numbers.
Oh man. Yeah.
The Spec V, I remember that. I don't know. See, if I were Honda, I decided to gobble Nissan, I would bring back the Skyline as an all-electric mini compact SUV. Just to completely shit on the name and the heritage.
The rumor, because oddly enough, one of those business channels was interviewing Carlos Ghosn, of all people.
They found him.
Yeah. He got out. He got out of the box that he got smuggled out of the country in, but he did bring up a good point. He did bring up a good point, though, and he said he believes that this came under pressure from the Japanese government themselves in order to compete with the burgeoning Chinese electric market. Because he brought up an interesting point that I'll admit would have been completely counter to what I would have thought in the past about China. Now, all kidding aside about China, he said, Nissan under his tenure, so obviously pre-scandal, had factories that they had set up in China. They sent their representatives out to train the Chinese the work staff, the workforce out there. And oddly enough, the Chinese factories outperformed their other factories globally. He said their workers were actually better than even the Japanese ones and all that. And so he said there's everything to that. And so that's why his conjecture is that so the first few like Chinese electric models were, let's be real, they were like just Honda ripoffs. They weren't great, and they
Right.
were like the laughing stock of social media for a while. But apparently, the
As they
newer
should be.
ones, yeah, the newer ones, apparently now I don't know if people have direct experience. If people have friends in China, families that can vouch for it, but like I guess it's the word on the street is the models just are much better.
See, that strikes me as very strange. I mean, the stereotype obviously is that everything they make over there is made of Chinesium, and it's not exactly world renowned for quality. Uh, but I mean, if that's true, then I think there's a much bigger problem to deal with aside from Nissan making shitty cars and getting what they deserve. Uh, I mean, I guess that's something that hasn't been really discussed. Is obviously the Japanese and American OEMs are completely failing to stir the soul, so to speak, the way they used to. Uh, do China bring back what used to be the golden age of sport compact cars in this
Yeah,
country?
that would be interesting. That
I
is an
certainly
interesting.
hope not, because I don't want the Chinese communists to get any money whatsoever, especially not from American consumers. But
That
that's
is
just the world we live in.
that is really interesting. I wonder if the U.S. consumer would actually consider purchasing Chinese cars. Because I mean, let's be real. In the '80s into the mid '90s, the thought of buying
Mhm.
a Hyundai, for example, it was like a joke. You did it if you were completely broke,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
nowadays, a lot of people
That's
have
actually why I
Kias.
bought my Hyundai.
I mean, well, you bought it when Finbar O'Neill took over, and he made some drastic changes
Yep.
that turned their
Was
fortunes
was it the
around.
'03 Tiburon, right?
Yeah, he turned things around. He's one of the best, for my money, the best CEO at that time period because he made a lot out of
Mhm.
very very little, and that's the mark of a good leader, I think. But yeah, I that would be interesting if they purchase some Chinese cars because yeah, they have a bad reputation. I mean,
Sure.
last time I went to Vietnam, and that was about 10 years ago, but still, they did not have a good reputation amongst the Vietnamese people. And I think on a global scale, there's this just what the stereotype that it's just cheap goods, right? But if they can create something that has lasting value, reliability, um, I don't know. I wonder if Americans would. I got a feeling like some markets would embrace it, maybe some wouldn't. Like probably wouldn't be too
Right.
popular in like the deep south. Uh, I just don't
Yeah,
think.
I don't think Hong Chi are gonna penetrate the Texas market anytime soon.
No, 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 unlikely. But maybe
I
some.
think that's how you pronounce it. I don't. I don't actually know.
I don't know. I thought it was pronounced dog shit, but okay. Um, but like, I think like some progressive markets, I think would. Because as we know, those markets they're not opposed to communism, so they would happily purchase something because they think it's a punch to the face to Uncle Sam and capitalism, forgetting that they
Right.
live in a capitalist government country. But that's
Yeah.
and their iPhone, which is also from made in China and a symbol
Uh
of
huh.
capitalism. But sure. But anyway, yeah, I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
what they're using to tweet about how much they hate capitalism.
Yeah, yeah, and I just wonder. Yeah, would a Chinese car? I assume they would have to play the long game. It's like a war of attrition, much
Hmm.
like Hyundai had to do, and eventually Kia, where you lose money, you try to, but the idea is capture market share. And then I think to Kia and Hyundai's credit, but I got to give Kia some serious credit. Like they really caught fire with a certain market, like their Optima, for example. I think that's the
Sure.
one. That one was selling well. The one that's the equivalent of the Sonata does well because it wasn't expensive.
Yep.
Um, and hell, their Kia Stinger is an interesting one because it was German designed, and
Right.
this I think the only problem with that car is I don't think they knew. I do not think they knew who to market it to, but it was a performance juggernaut. It was very, very good. it could keep pace with my 4 Series. It can't beat it, but it can keep pace. And I think maybe where they got it wrong was the pricing. It wasn't inexpensive.
I can see that.
But the interior,
I can see that.
Beautiful car. Beautiful car. Although oddly enough, it was the little things. I heard like the people would take it in for warranty repairs, but it was because it was a hatchback, and the little whatever it is where it lowers it down, because it's the non-automated ones. They just they have a big issue, and it's like, talk about a 25-cent problem that becomes bigger when you got to fix it, right? Just having washers.
So it sounds like the Pinto.
Yeah, because then some of the people I remember on some of these auto forums were saying like the dealerships couldn't fix it, and so they're like, "F it, I'll do it myself." And they just go to Home Depot and get like some washers, and that do the trick. And I was like, "Damn!" Again, 25-cent problem, right? But they just couldn't do that, and so I think it's little things like that did wrong. But the engine and all that interior, they did very, very right. It was a good looking.
Yeah, I'm looking at some pictures here. I never actually saw the interior, but this looks pretty damn sleek.
It is.
And I love how the passenger side is basically devoid of any details or features aside from the vent. I like that, and I like how everything's kind of angled toward the driver. I know it's the first gen S2000 did that for real.
Corvettes
like
do
very
that too,
obvious.
don't they?
Yeah.
Corvettes
I believe so. And I like that because it's a subtle reminder to the passenger that their only function in that car is to slow it down. Like,
or at the very least,
you don't get to touch the stereo or anything else. You don't get to see the gauges. Just sit there and shut up.
Their job is to entertain the driver. That's it.
Yeah, the first time I saw a Stinger, I was like, "What in the hell is that thing?" Oh my god, it's a Kia. Back before the logo was KN.
Yeah, they did change that. So
that's not
I don't know. But yeah, I wonder what Kia's going to bring out then.
A forklift.
Yeah, and I wonder what Kia's going to bring to the market if they're going to have a competitor. Because come on, at some point they're going to think we can't lose that market share for something that for a segment that isn't a thing yet. But I'm sure they don't want to lose out either. Because again, back in the day, it was a Tiburon. And then the spiritual successor to that was the Genesis, which I don't know why they didn't still call it a Tiburon.
The Velociraptor, whatever the hell they called that one.
Yeah, that was always a weird car. I heard the performance was good, but it's because it's 3 doors, right? And so it was kind of this weird thing where the third door was on the passenger side, I think. Yeah, but
I think so.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
It was like a little suicide door.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I actually never thought they should have changed the Tiburon name. They should have kept it because it would have been the 3rd generation. So why bring out the Genesis and then you do away with it? I mean, the Genesis, wasn't a bad car. It could keep pace with the Z, from what I understand back in the day. 3.8 liter engine. Wait, I think it was turbocharged. Actually, it got pretty good horsepower.
I believe so. Yeah. See, now here's something Kia did right. Kia. And here's something that I wish more manufacturers would do. And I didn't know this. I literally just found this out 30 seconds ago, reading the wiki page. Apparently in 2019, Kia announced a partnership with K-pop girl group Blackpink to promote the Stinger. Now, I think more manufacturers ought to do that.
You know what? Kia does good advertising, though. Do you remember when their what was it, that small boxy vehicle? Oh man, I can't remember. But they had it was like those hamsters were in the Super Bowl commercial.
Oh god, Soul, the Kia Soul.
But it sold well.
Yeah, so you saw that before every single movie or before the trailers, every single time they went to the theater.
That's right. Yeah. So I gotta admit, the Kia advertising people are pretty good. They had that another Super Bowl commercial with their EV6, I think it was, where wasn't it like oh man, I'm trying to remember now. It was so cutesy with wasn't it like a like a electric dog or something like that, that it's about to run out of charge.
Oh god.
It's
Yeah.
it's totally in line with their style of
It was
marketing, though.
something cute.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
very, very good at that. And they do those designs that, for the most part, they get their hits and they get their misses, but most of their design, the design language resonates with people, though. I think the Kia brand design is more like like you could see the family lineage more so than the Hyundais, I think. But
Right.
no, Kia's no, they do a good job of that. They do a good job.
I think
Yeah,
they had the one advert for the Super Bowl where was it Steven Tyler? Some rocker is driving the car backwards and like he gets de-aged. that was probably one of my favorite weird little commercial.
yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. I think they hit the marketing kind of on the head a lot of times. Maybe not the engineering and design so much, given what you said about the 25-cent solution.
I mean,
But I mean, I think
they get the big things right.
yes, yes, as opposed to Nissan, they can't figure out how to put a tack in a stick shift car.
Hey, like I was, like I remember my sister, for example, like in her vacation home, she had a Kia Telluride,
Mm-hmm.
and let me tell you, that thing was pretty nice. It was pretty nice,
Oh, yeah?
I mean, and normally because she has an X7, but like so she got that one, but even she admits when you get in the car, the interior, for example, shares similarities. Because I want to say that might have had some European influence, but no, the Telluride was really really nice. And apparently that's one of the Kia's better sellers because it's one of those things where people are complaining they could never get one under markup, and so yeah, there's something to it. So they're doing a good
That's
job.
fair. I've never actually driven the Telluride. I just saw the one meme where someone defaced the back of a Telluride with some stickers. I think so. It read, "I can Telluride dick," which kind of something that people don't think about. Can the name of your car be mocked with stickers by some asshole trying to get internet famous?
Oh man. Yeah, that's something that manufacturers got to consider. But
Well,
yeah,
it's not like names that don't mean anything, like Integra. Sorry, I pronounced it Spanish style there. Like, yeah, okay, it's meant to invoke thoughts of integrity and whatnot, but it doesn't have any inherent meaning. It's the
or
Nissan Silvia.
or
I don't know if that would have sold here.
or if it's like your old car, the Tiburon, you create a name that 90% of the owners will mispronounce because
Yep,
they don't speak fucking Spanish.
yep. Oh, it was funny when I got that car. I brought my old man with me to the dealership to be my negotiating buddy because he just didn't give a shit about anything or anyone. He would tell you off if you thought you were fucking around. And he was Cuban and a nice thick accent. He'd always refer to it as the tiburon. The way you're supposed to, and none of the salesmen knew what the hell he was talking about. And so I put out it's that pretty red one over there. The Tiburon. You're like, yeah, you fucking idiot. We're saying the same thing. Just do your job, monkey. Make my car appear.
Yeah, like when white people order Vietnamese food and correct the waitress. It's pronounced pho. And then you got to be nice to them because at least they tip well.
I just spit in the soup. They won't know.
Yeah, it's one of the Vietnamese original 11 herbs and spices. But
yeah, phlegm.
but yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. And then, like, see, my quandary for you is: do you think the reintroduction of these cars will do anything to drum up new business for the old aftermarket tuning companies that you and I remember and love, like HKS,
Oh,
Ready, Apex, Blitz?
wow, that's a good one. I think it might. Um, I mean, obviously, if our listeners remember these companies, like they don't have the presence in the states that they used to.
No.
But most of the ones, even the modern, uh, like mod jobs, they might as well just be complete makeovers. Uh, I I think it'll probably drum up some business, but not if you're looking for a street car. Like if you buy one of these cars because you want to, compete on the track, well, okay. Question one: why not just buy the old one
Right.
and build that up to class spec? I think it'll probably drum up some business in that regard. But we touched upon this last episode, like the emissions regulations and the fuel economy regulations have gotten to the point where they're strangling your design space as an OEM. And the cars are rolling off the line, so hyper optimized to hopefully just barely skirt past legal requirements. And I say hopefully because it means that it was then built for performance. Uh, that, like we mentioned before, modding some of these is probably going to make them slower. And I not probably, I can almost guarantee that. And I think, I don't know, it could drum up some revenue for the mod companies, but probably not in this country. And I don't see it. I don't see it making a huge impact for their street level customers. Track,
Yeah.
different story.
Right. I think the face of tuning has changed somewhat because, like we covered last week, or the last episode was, remember, like we talked about in the old days, like intake exhaust it can be had under $1,000, and that gives you about 40 horsepower back in the 90s, early 2000s, without question, especially if it was turbocharged. Now, like you said, you do that now, that might not actually help your horsepower numbers at all. It might not help your torque numbers. It might actually be detrimental because, like you said, they're so fine tuned. I find that a lot of things are like ECU tuned nowadays. Not to say they weren't then, but back then, I mean, let's be real. Like for the average street tuner, if you're going to get a standalone system, yes, a standalone fuel management system, um,
A Motec system exhaust.
that was like next level stuff.
Thanks,
Like,
Mr. Walker.
if you get a standalone system, that was like you had to have some money, man. I mean, like, and I say this as a guy in my 20s. I didn't have a whole lot of money back then. I had to get a piggyback system, right, which did its job, but it could do its job back then. I'm not sure a piggyback system is sophisticated enough today to do it. I mean, maybe it would depend on the car, but I'm sure a bunch of check engine lights would be, set off and everything. But I think, like, let's say, like, okay, if you own a BMW, even an entry level one, let's say, like like a 220 or 230, I mean, something like that, right? Okay, if you're gonna get something from Steve Dinan, I'm sure it's gonna be just fine. I'm sure you're gonna see real horsepower numbers. In fact, you're probably gonna see more horsepower than what he claims, right? But he's a guy that knows what he's doing. Now, if you go to some Mickey Mouse tuner, that's just gonna say, "Oh yeah, bro, it's I could do that," and then
Trust me, bro. Very good.
I don't think then you get what you pay for, man. Right?
I don't think your car will start if you go to one of these chop shops. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
because there's
I mean, we
always
grew
going
up
to
in the
be.
era of OBD0. Okay, you could do whatever the hell you wanted. Uh,
Yeah.
now we're what OBD2 or 3 or whatever the hell the standard is now.
OB.
No,
Well,
you'd have to rip out the ECU completely.
no,
I
now
don't
it's
think a reflex
now
is going to do a
no.
damn thing.
Willie, I believe now it's OBX. It's because we have to be inclusive about our emission systems
Oh
now.
my god, go to hell.
I'm sorry, have I offended your Latinx sensibilities?
I'm hanging up.
Yeah, we kid, but not really. But yeah, I think there's certain companies, let's be real, they stood the test of time for a reason. There's a reason why, like the ones I just named, Greddy, so I guess in Japan, Trust, HKS, Apex, Blitz. There's a reason they're still doing business in Japan. There's a reason it's still around. I like to believe that if they got behind these cars, then that would definitely fuel some interest from these young people, because I feel like these young people today, I'm not going to say they're the first ones to do this, but there's a lot of this like all like show and no go. Now that happened back in the day too, but those people were made fun of, right?
The carpet queens, the trailer queens.
Yeah,
yep.
But when you see a car that's legitimately quick, that gets a lot of respect. And I think some of these kids today, well, for starters, they just can't drive. Let's just be serious. I mean, like,
well, most of them don't even have any interest in getting a license, which is mind-boggling to me. Like, I've known people in their 20s that, like, oh yeah, I don't have a license. I don't really care. I just, take Uber. It's like, I don't know about you, man. Like, when I was 15, I was counting the hours to my 16th birthday to get my license. I showed up at the DMV at 5 in the fucking morning on my 16th birthday. Like, give me my license now.
Yeah, these I mean, the generation today, it's just look, and I know I sound like the old get off my lawn guy, but like the truth of the matter is I think anxiety is a big thing, and I don't want to get into the whole mental health part of it. This is not that kind of podcast. Let's tune into the other ones for that. But I've always told people that like the actual driving exam, it's only hard if you're nervous, because by the time you should know how to park, you should know how to turn, use your blinker, all that bullshit. You should know how to do that. It's the nerves that get you, because you're driving like with a stranger in the car grading you, right? But my fix for that was easy. Just before that your driver's test, just drive a lot, so that you get used to it. And knowing your father and my father, there's no DMV driver that could be more anxiety inducing than my dad.
Oh God, yeah. So kids these days, I mean, no DMV examiner can be more intimidating than an immigrant dad when you hand him the wrong size wrench.
Oh.
Or you don't hold the light properly.
Oh man.
Holy shit.
And they don't realize
I would face the devil himself butt naked with a plastic fork and not be afraid after that. Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And the dads don't realize the reason you can't hold the light steady is because of them, because you're so freaking scared.
Exactly.
But yeah. And
also, like, hold the light on the damn alternator. It's like, I'm 7 years old. I don't know what the fucking alternator is. Point to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just one of those things, man. I don't get it. I mean, a lot of these kids, like, and I'm not saying all, because I'm sure somewhere out there is the 20-something-year-old versions of us that are like totally into the same shit we were into, going through the same things we went to, probably making jack shit money, but using it to, restore whatever late 90s car that they bought for like $3,000, and God bless them, right? But like, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it would be nice to entice these companies to really make a claim to the American market again. But like the opening question was, will they? Because ultimately we got to look at the sales numbers. Do the cars sell? And of that percentage, how many of them are just using it for commuter purposes and absolutely no testosterone freaking fueled activities? And so there's that, right? Like, I don't know. That's because, like, I see a lot of people, they got some nice sporty cars, but they only got it because there's like, oh, it looks pretty. They don't know anything about it. So it's like, okay, all right, that's fine too. It's their money. Shit. I'm not going to tell them how to spend it. But then you have your enthusiasts, right? I still see people do car meetups and all that, but they're mostly older cars. Like where I used to live in Fontana, I can't remember what day, but they would do like this giant Miata meetup. But you'd have a bunch of different Miatas. Some of them had like the club like the SCCA club stickers on them. So these
oh
guys
yeah,
were
those
legit.
things are monsters on the track. You wouldn't believe
Yeah,
it by looking at them, especially the first gen. I think it's the N8A.
yeah.
Like if you know how to manage your speed through corners, like that thing will eat higher horsepower cars for lunch. It's the most embarrassing thing you'll ever lose to. But guess what? That encourages you to be better and suck less. That's
yes,
something else that's missing.
that's to me like if listeners ever wanted a car, the closest they can get to replicating the responsiveness of a go-kart is probably the Miatas. Like you say, like particularly the early generation ones. They
Yeah,
weren't much for
with the
horsepower.
little pop up headlights
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
so cool they had to be outlawed.
Man, I gotta tell you, I actually like the second generation ones too. I actually did like those. Now everything after that, I mean, they're not without their charm, but I was never drawn to any of them.
No, after that, I think with the third gen, the third gen was still had some character, but no, it was kind of a herald of the end where everyone's on this race to the bottom. And why don't manufacturers build cars that matter? Well, because people don't give a shit. And the
Well,
people
speaking
who
of
give a
mattering,
shit are the ones. Well, I mean the people who give a shit about the joy of driving and the testosterone fueled activities, they're buying Porsches. Like
right?
the people like us who have advanced in their careers
Yeah,
and want a taste of that. They're going to the only OEMs that still cater to that, and I think a lot of that just has to do with identity. Yeah, okay, sure, Porsche make SUVs, whatever.
you kind
That's
of have
fine.
to stay in
You gotta
business.
cater.
Yeah,
You gotta have to. That's the unfortunate reality of the world we live in. But they have identity.
yeah,
I mean, even back then, the 300s, the Supras, the RX-7s, the S2000s, they had an identity. There was no question. Like, this is a sports car.
yeah,
If you go grocery shopping in an S2000, you're kind of stupid. Or
right.
you're just going for like a half dozen eggs and a pint of heavy cream because that's all that fits in the back.
Yeah,
But a lot of it is, I think, probably consumer driven. People want their cars to do more things. They want the Swiss Army knife vehicles, and that's fine. Again, it's your money. It's so far still a free country. Waste it however you want. But the thing about Swiss Army knives is they kind of suck at everything.
right.
Yeah, I've got 27 tools in this little fucking metal and plastic dildo that fits in my pocket, and all the tools are garbage.
Right.
I'm not going to rely on the little folder knife that's this long to help me in a survival situation. The little saw blade is not going to help me fell a tree to build shelter. And when you get this feedback loop of, well, we think people want one car to do everything, one vehicle to rule them all. Well, that's what you're giving the consumer. They don't have choice, so they're gonna buy that. And
Yeah.
then some idiot, running a focus group, it's like, oh, look what we've discovered. We found the voice of the customer. Like, no, you haven't. You've just shoved your own head up your ass. So why don't OEMs for lack of a better term, grow some balls? I think they're scared to. You
Yeah.
look at the big home run swings in the automotive world. The '92 Viper, the car that nobody wanted to exist,
Yeah.
and that was actively stymied in every step of its development. No one's going to take that risk anymore. You get little parts bin cars,
Right.
and you get the shared design language like the wheel arch flat. Since I mentioned that, how many thousands of times have you seen that every single
I
day and you never
I
noticed it before?
I have ever since you fucking told me that, I've infected so many people. It's like that movie Fallen, right? Wait, Denzel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now people can't
Absolutely.
people can't fucking unsee it now. Everyone's looking in the parking lot. One of my coworkers, I told her that, and she's like, "What do you mean flat wheel arch?" I'm like, "That look." She's like, "I'm like, do you remember your dad's car growing up? Did it have that?" She's like, "No, it didn't." I was like, "Yeah, every fucking car now, right?" It's just, it's become this thing, man.
How many people how many enemies have we made from pointing that out?
This is like, what's it like 28 days later? You know, like it's like exponential now. Now people can't stop but look at the fucking wheel arches, man. Because the cars we were talking about, right, RX-7 and all that, not flat wheel arches. But yeah, do you know what year?
But what's up?
What year did that become the industry standard? Now we got to know.
Oh God, I want to say it was the mid to late '90s. I started seeing them first in I want to say 2014, and it was because I was bored. I was looking for something different, but that's when I really started noticing them. You know, but it should be noted for our audience that I'm kind of an idiot. So if I noticed it in 2014, it probably was out for a few years before that.
Yeah, it's just, it does, let's be real, that does affect the aesthetic of cars because they're always going to have that common DNA. Yeah.
Yep.
But
even on the got an article here from 2016 on the Lexus LC500. You figure if you're going to have a no compromise car, this is as close as you might get. Still hasn't.
The only compromise,
I think,
the only compromise the LC 500 has is performance, because it is fast. Like it's a tick faster than my car, but it's also freaking $100,000. Okay.
Well, yeah.
So it puts it in a category right with like a Porsche. Probably what, like Porsche, the equivalent would be what the because the Cayman would be under that, right?
Yeah, I don't think that is on the same on par with a 911. I think the Boxster, or whatever they call it, 718 now or something. I think that would be a closer comparison to the LC500.
Yeah, because
on price, if nothing else.
Price, yeah, that's what I mean, price. Because even if you take like the Aston Martin Vantage, the Jaguar F-Type, rest in peace, that like the $100,000 F-Type would smoke it, as far as I understand.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It would obliterate it. But yeah, so it's like, but then in fairness though, Lexus in and of itself, other than the ISF that you and I drove on the track, other than that one, they don't have like a mainstream car that is just like just gonna like blow you away in terms of speed. That's not their image. Their image is, it's very luxurious ride, top notch materials, and their sound systems are freaking amazing, man. That Mark Levinson sound, whoo, damn, that is good.
Refined performance, sports car for the discerning gentleman. That's why I never bought one. I can't discern hot sauce from shit. So
listen, man, I
don't belong in a Lexus.
For a couple of years, remember I had that Lexus ES 350, probably their least sporty car. But when you're just going on a road trip, like I remember driving to Vegas in that thing, and let me tell you, man, that was the softest ride ever. I mean, it has good lane changing power. It's good for that. But if you got to turn at high speeds, good luck with that.
I remember my parents had a couple Lexi. I think the last one they had was that RX 350 with that stupid little grill beak that I hated. But they had some breed of ES. They had some LS. And then the RX 350, it was almost physically impossible to drive any of those at or below the speed limit. That's one thing I've always loved about Lexus. I mean, it rides like a cloud. About as you feel about as connected to the road as if you're on a cloud. But you don't feel shit. Like how I didn't get my
That's
license suspended
yes.
within the first 5 minutes of driving any of those is a miracle.
And you know what? And for people who don't know, who have never experienced it, but you will, people. I have faith in you. Who've never had a luxury car driving experience, it is really easy to speed in those because the refinement is so good that you don't feel speed the same way. You know, like sometimes, man, when I drive my Lexus or the Benz or the Beamer, like, dude, I'm like, I'll look at the speedometer. I'm like, shit, I hit 80 already on the freeway. You know, let's just say 80. And yeah, but like maybe that's why the Beamer's
Kilometers an hour, right? You would
maybe
never go 80 miles an hour.
maybe that's why the Beamers started offering the heads up display. so so you can't hide from the speed. But yeah, man, you just like when you have something that, like you said, has that road feel and all that. No, you feel the speed. When I had my Evo,
Yes.
you feel the speed. The Eclipse, you definitely feel it. But yeah, when you get into the world of like the more luxurious cars, yeah, it's too comfortable for you to feel speed. That it's a blessing, but it's a curse too. And SUVs
With the
definitely.
exception of the ISF, you felt everything
Oh man.
in that
Again,
car.
see, I've never driven the later that last iteration. I've only driven the what year was that? That
The
was
one
about
that mattered.
2007. That's about 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like the look of it because that ISF looked way better than the standard ISs because I had that hump for the V8. Remember?
Yes.
That
Yep.
was that made it just look super macho. It looked like
And
fucking
the fender flares as well.
yeah,
I think the
that
fenders were a
freaking
little more flared than the regular IS.
that hump on the hood. You know what that looked like? It looked like fucking the old Incredible Hulk when he's about to like burst out of his shirt. He goes from like Bill Bixby to Lou Ferrigno. It's like rah, right? That's what it looked like. So
I just thought it looked like Scott Steiner's bicep. Was it was
yeah,
WCW, right? He'd
yeah.
flex it. It looked like he had
Oh,
a little tennis ball surgically implanted
he's the only
in
guy
his arm.
for people. Google Scott Steiner bicep. He has a bicep on his bicep. It's like yeah, he had like he like his bicep was doing curls on its own, and he had a little growth on top of it. Yeah, those are some crazy genetics, man. I met him in person, by the way. Yeah,
Oh, no
even at
kidding.
old age, he's still put together. I mean, it doesn't look like he did back then, but still looks like he'll fuck a guy up. But yeah, the way it should be. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that. I haven't driven the ISF after that, but that one was like, you're right. That one, it had sporty character.
Hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It rode more luxurious than say like, like a Mitsubishi or Nissan. But compared to the modern ones, it was still, you classify more sporty than luxurious. I mean, I didn't love the interior, but I like the interior of the first gen IS. The little, like that was pretty slick. The charcoal and silver bezels and all that looked really nice. It's just had no performance until you modded it up.
Right. But
But then
that's
again,
one thing that you said back in the day that I think was uh, very, very telling, and I think still applies today. There are some cars where they were only useful, they were only relevant if you modded them up,
yeah,
right? And it was, and what you said before, if the first thing that you think of when you look at a car is, man, I can't wait to do X, Y, and Z, it's the wrong car,
it's
right?
the
Like
wrong
you
car.
shouldn't want to fix the OEM's mistakes. If you want to mod it up, hey, great, good for you.
Yeah,
But it should be for enhancement, not for like I don't know. The car should stand on its own.
yeah. You should think of how can I make the strong qualities of this card even stronger. So
Yes.
it's like if you bought an Impreza or a Evolution back in the day. You knew it was going to
Yeah.
handle well. You knew it was going to have a very torquey engine. So you're just adding to that, but you weren't doing it to make it high revving. You weren't doing it to make it drift, right? You're going against the very character of it. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. And I think like we agree that the S2000 might have been the first car, at least I can remember, where I wouldn't want to mod a lot of it because I'd be destroying
Right.
the character of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just
I
be
mean, for
basically
me, it
buying spoon
was
and noodle
the
parts.
Viper, yet another car I could never afford. Uh, but you're absolutely right. There's just something about something being purpose built.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you. I mean, look here's a history lesson. I think we see these cycles a lot. I know you see it. You see it. We're seeing it right now with cars. We have seen it with warplanes. Those out there, look up the F-111 and what an absolute flying pile of dog shit that is. You you go through these periods where the pendulum swings too far in the direction of stupidity, and sooner or later somebody needs to wake up and say, "Okay, time out. I don't know how the hell we got here, but this is wrong." Like there's just something fundamentally wrong about betraying your heritage as an OEM, betraying the heritage of the model. And and again, I get a lot of people like, I don't understand. It's just a Mustang. Who cares if it's a sports car, an SUV, or a toilet brush? It's just a thing. I'm not talking to you people. In fact, I don't even know why you're listening to this podcast. Uh, go
Yeah.
fucking read a mommy blog or something. But it's sooner or later someone is gonna have a moment where like, okay, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like we need to fix this. Let's hope it's not too late. And then you get something glorious. You get a 68 Stingray. You get, my mom's old 69 429 Boss Mustang. Fun fact, as much horsepower as the one I had with almost exactly one half the weight. Um,
Man.
yeah. Yeah, that thing had to have
Wow.
been a frickin' screamer. Uh, but you do get a pendulum swinging in the other direction.
Yeah.
Where that's going to end up, I don't know. Uh, I have a hope that whenever this grand renaissance happens, we do go back to simplicity. We're never going to see another 300ZX. We're never going to see another Supra. If we do, we won't recognize it. But
Right.
could we
It'll be a
see
name
another?
only.
Yeah, well, yeah. It'll be a Supra SUV hybrid electric. Uh, but do we see another short run, limited edition Miata style car? Or I think Fiat, I think it was called the 124 or something like that. Yes, 124 Spider. Just their attempt at a Miata with without any of the reliability, ergonomics, performance, etc. But do we get another no compromise car, even if it's just for a couple years, just to remind people, like, yeah, we haven't completely lost our fucking minds yet as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
The answer to that is obviously I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have manufacturers that serve a very niche audience, for example. And I think they're always going to create the cars that enthusiasts are going to love, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the only downside is you better have a high net worth because the average person ain't going to be able to afford that. Although, in fairness, that should be incentive and motivation for people
Absolutely.
like you and I who are automotive. At the end of the day, we're always going to be fans of cars and the things they can do. But it should be a motivation to get those things. Like back in the day when you and I first started getting into cars, wasn't like Koenigsegg like a really new thing. It wasn't like we
Oh yeah,
had like one car, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah, and I would actually get into arguments with people. I was like, no, that can't possibly be Swedish. I was like, okay, but here it is, literally on Top Gear. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. That Swedish cars don't exist. I guess Volvo was a figment of everyone's imagination. But I mean, look, even Volvo, they came out with the late '90s. I think they came out with the 850 GT some or other, but it was this hopped up like super sedan, and
wait,
everyone's like, where the hell did this come from?
wait, is that one of the ones that I know you and I went to a Volvo dealership to test drive? Is that the one? Because yeah, they definitely have lots of sedans.
Oh yeah, I mean they have sedans, but they had God, I think the one that we tested was the 60. It was
Okay.
the little
Smaller one.
Swedish version of the M5 that
Yeah.
they washed in hot water and it shrank like 20%. Uh, but
Yeah.
no, because I'm looking this up. 95, the 850 T5R,
Okay.
uh, the gobbledygook engine code with a special ECU and additional 2 psi of boost pressure.
Hmm.
So it's 243 horsepower, 250 torque, 5-speed manual because people knew how to drive a third pedal back in the day. But drag coefficient under 0.3, which for cars even back in the 90s is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this little thing just hauled ass, you know.
I wonder. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder. The equivalent of Mitsubishi during that time probably would have been what, the Galant VR4,
I think so. Yeah,
right?
sounds about right.
I wonder if any of our wait, they did import those, right?
I believe so.
Because I know like there's the Diamante, but that was just strictly like like their version of the Avalon, Toyota Avalon. But the Galant VR4s, I know that was available like on Gran Turismo and all that, but but I
Yeah, they
wonder
imported it virtually. the
I wonder if that was
Sony import
available.
export house.
Yeah, I wonder if they ever sent those here, because that would be a hell of a project car to restore. Actually, talk about a sleeper. You get the old
Well,
Ford
I mean, it's over
C3.
25 years old, so I'm pretty sure you can do whatever the hell you want to now.
Yeah,
You know, I assume that the 25-year cutoff still exists for smogging your vehicle.
yeah. So just remember, listeners, if it's over 25, you can do whatever you want with it. It's all good. But if it's under 18, just leave it alone.
We are, of course, speaking of automobiles.
Of course. But
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I wonder, because the Galant wasn't an ugly car. The one I owned back in the early 2000s was an ugly car, but not that generation. It was all right. It was all right.
Yeah, the Galant vicious real-time four-wheel drive. Sounds kind of intimidating. I know. The Galant had some Group A. I wouldn't call it success, but Group A experience in
I would
World
imagine.
Rally.
I would imagine it was too heavy.
Well, yeah, that's why I said experience, not
Yeah.
success.
Yeah. But and for people who younger listeners who maybe don't follow rally racing, it should be noted
Oh,
that like the
God, yeah.
90s, particularly like the mid 90s, holy shit, man. Like
Uh-huh.
World Rally Championships, WRC was, man, that was like a who's who of superstar drivers. Remember, like, people like, obviously there's always gonna be like the Michael Schumachers for F1 and all that,
Oh, of
but
course.
remember how freaking revered Tommy Mäkinen was when he drove for Mitsubishi?
Yep.
They even gave him, what is it, the Mäkinen edition? Was it Evo 6? I think it was.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it was so badass, right? And yeah, like Colin McRae, I think he drove for Ford for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, dude, it was just awesome. That was like some serious world class driving during a time when the cars, they were, it's not that they weren't sophisticated, but they were still raw, right?
Yeah.
They looked like you'd almost want your rally car to be covered in mud and shit, right? You almost didn't want it looking too pretty. You know what I mean?
Right.
But nowadays, like the Evo 10, for example, I can't even imagine that thing rallying. I don't even know if it ever had
I
success
think it would only
rallying.
do the asphalt stages and then retire.
Yeah, I don't think it could. It has some of the DNA, but I just don't. It doesn't even look like a car that would rally. To be honest with you, I don't know. It's too pretty. It looks
Right.
like looks like a Cylon from Battlestar Galactica, and so I don't know. Whereas the old ones, you're just like, nope. This looks like you go straight from the dealership, right? Boom, right there to the mountains, right to the
Yeah.
Toge, right. I don't know, man. But
Well, that's the. I mean, the thing is that rally is one of those disciplines, art forms, call it whatever the
yeah,
hell you will. All the terms apply. It definitely needs to get a little more appreciation and fans, honestly, in the states. Like, yeah, Formula One's awesome. I love F1. I love Formula cars in general. You want to talk about raw power? Um, Again, people, it's relatively cheap to go to Skip Barber or Bob Bondurant's School of High Performance Driving.
rest
Get
in
some
peace.
ass time. Yeah. Get some ass time in these cars, and it'll give you a whole new appreciation for what it feels like to have your butt about an inch and a half off the pavement.
Yeah,
But like a lot of these racing disciplines are awesome, but it's one thing to go fast. We all like going fast. If not, again, why are you listening to this? But it's quite another thing to go fast in ice, snow, mud, sands, sideways, off a cliff. Like going 140 miles an hour on tarmac takes a high level of skill. Doing 140 miles an hour through 3 inches of snow it takes skill and balls.
yeah.
Probably, a little bit of insanity thrown in for good measure.
What are you now, sane? When have we ever been accused of that? But yeah, just the whole character of Rally back then was just because I know they made like Sega Rally. That was a cult classic in the arcades,
Oh yeah.
right? And then the cover car I think was a Celica GT, I think GT4.
Yep.
But yeah, man. And then it's just I don't know. I think another thing, and we'll know this in longitudinal studies, but maybe the kids these days they'd rather play the racing sims versus the actual driving actual cars because back in the day,
That's
like you
sad.
said, like you mentioned, those driving schools. I think it was you that told me a long time ago when it was asked about like what's the best mod you can do for your car, and I think you said go to a racing school.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of them don't, if you want to go the racing route, fine. Cool. I highly recommend it. But a lot of them just have even just defensive driving for regular everyday use. I forget which one of the two big ones had a fleet of Mustangs back in the day. But like the 93 model, like the really shitty ones
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that didn't have any worth whatsoever, let's just be honest. But they had these arms that had been attached to the car with like little casters on them and a little actuator. So you'd be driving along the track, and all of a sudden, one of these wheels would pop off, and you'd lose traction in one of your tires. And it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
now how do you recover? How do you regain control of the vehicle? Like even
yeah,
things like that, most people don't understand or appreciate. Like the vast majority of accidents, especially even like really bad ones, they're not at 200 miles an hour,
no,
and this
no,
is for cars or bikes. I know, well, at least in the motorcycle world, there's something called, ironically enough, the Hurt Report, because that was the name of the statistician that wrote it, John Hurt, I believe. The stats don't change. Like most accidents are, low speed, usually single vehicle.
right.
There are speeds you can attain in a Kia Forte or on a bicycle, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But I think part of the reason why people don't necessarily give a shit these days is because they don't know what cars can do and they don't know what they can do, right? Because it's not just the vehicle. You put Michael Schumacher, obviously pre skiing accident. You put him in a minority, he's not going to win. Okay, you put Lewis Hamilton in a Ford Fiesta, no one's going to care. Right. You need the marriage of man or woman and machine, and you have to hone them both. And that kind of just speaks to, I think, kind of a cultural shift in our society. People don't care because they're not taught to care. You said kids would rather play The Sims.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not gonna denigrate anyone for wanting to play video games. Have at it. I used to love video games. Uh, it's your time. It's your life. Spend it however you wish. But I think you lose something when you disconnect from sensation. Like driving is such a visceral and either sensuous or sensual, whichever one everyone thinks means sex, but it actually means like using all of your senses together. I always confuse those two, but it's a very integrated experience, and when you're never given the opportunity to learn the limits of that, and you're never given the chance to experience that besides just slogging and gridlock to and from a job you hate, then you're losing a big part of what it means, I think, to be human. Like we bitch and complain, and people don't really think of cars as anything but giant waste of money. But it's like, come on, man, you can go to the dealership with a bare minimum of paperwork, plop money down, and buy a steel machine that you can kill yourself with at speeds that your grandfather would have never been able to imagine. Like, holy shit, what an amazing time we live in. Appreciate that.
That's an interesting idea, because I find even when I meet with my clients for therapy sessions, and we have to identify ways to de-stress, basically, and I always ask, give me some examples of things you do. Inevitably, it comes to, I just get in my car alone and I go drive somewhere. Now, sometimes it's easier because they have a very nice car, especially my clients with high net worth. They'll be very, very, very sweet automobiles. But the idea is that most of the time, they don't even play music. They just go, if it's a convertible, cool. If it's a sunroof, just boom, just set it to however you're comfortable, and you just go. You just go. You take the scenic route to avoid traffic. You do all that, but you just get the air in your face and all that, and that's therapeutic. And so I would argue, like sometimes, and I'm a big advocate of traveling to kind of de-stress. You travel, you have the experience in your head, but you don't have anything, because I don't buy souvenirs and all that shit, and that you just throw that out after 2 years anyway. But a car is something that you have. It's there, right? So you have this therapeutic tool that also has utility, right? So why would that be a bad investment if what you're looking for is to improve your mental health, but also it's functional, it's got utility, right? And so some people might say, we gave the example of an S2000, we can't go shopping in it. Well, then fuck, why would you though? It's a great second car, okay? And so it's like, you do that, and but then on the weekends, to unwind, you just take it on a coastal drive on PCH or something, right? Dude. Or like, I remember one of the more just oh my god, like just the most like, it was just such a good escape from reality, was driving down the coastline from Pacific Northwest to LA. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, ocean is right there. There's no fucking barrier, right? And thank God,
even in Oregon, where they have those ridiculously low speed limits for no reason.
I was like, let me tell you, man, like, that was like, thank God I actually had a full on camera back then, because I took some really awesome pics and everything. And those memories are there forever. But I had a car for that. It wasn't like I rented a car and all that. My memories were in my freaking car. And so that's why I was like, I don't think it's a bad investment. It's a bad investment if you use it as a commodity to, like, you're hoping it'll go up in value. And even then, you should really be looking at like exotics in that sense, right? But like, I think it's a perfectly good tool for a man. I mean, if there are women who want to do this, awesome. But I think it's most. I personally don't know any women that are really, really into racing, or not racing. I'm sorry, just driving, spirited driving.
I've every single girlfriend I've ever had is like, "What do you like to do for fun?" I'm like, I just go for a drive, and they look at me like I just shit on the dinner plate. It's like, why would you want to do that? And to me, I was like, well, why wouldn't you? I think you should. I think you should write. Everyone's heard, or maybe not. everyone's heard of the book from the 70s, The Joy of Sex. I think we should write the driving equivalent of that. The joy of twisty roads or something. I don't know. I'm not that creative. Find someone who is.
Hey, you
But
know what? You're one of the few people that know this, but I'm working on a fiction novel, and it's fiction because I have this really really beautiful female character that like actually has a fast car, and so it's like,
we're getting canceled.
and she has a good personality.
We're definitely getting canceled. All of these clips are going to be taken down by the social media platforms.
That's all right, man. The 5 people that watch our podcast are all dudes, so it doesn't matter.
That's fine.
Prove us wrong, ladies. Prove us wrong. No, you know what?
No, actually,
I'm wrong.
got.
I'm wrong. Hold on. Do you remember in the early 2000s? I'm wrong. There was that group of ladies that made that drift crew. What was it? Drifting Pretty? Was that what they were called?
Okay. Yeah. I think it was Drifting Pretty. Actually, I do remember. Was it D1GP at Irwindale that we saw them? And I noticed there was like this halo, this no man's land, literal no man's land around them because none of us have the fucking balls to go up and talk to them.
Yeah, and that same.
And I'll just mean you and me. I mean, like every guy in that event, which is they wouldn't breach this invisible barrier.
I remember though that event. I mean, you and I, we did approach the Falcon Racing girls, and I remember I got a picture. You took it. It was with Courtney Day and Mary Jane Castillo, and holy shit, let me tell you, like I don't know what Mary Jane Castillo is doing these days, but Courtney Day I know is still active on social media. She's still in the car scene. She aged very well. Well, I have to say that because she's like our age. But yeah, I remember like I saw that picture and I was like, holy crap! Thank God for high resolution. But I wonder what happened to all those.
Of course, high resolution meant my Kodak Digicam that was 4 megapixel.
It was a lot back then, man. But
yeah, it was perfect for printing things out. That's about it.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to a lot of those import car models. Like I said, like I know Courtney Day is still active on social media and she still looks great. But like I wonder what happened because I know like they had to find something else to do. Because the car scene is just DOA. I don't know, but like I know like one of them. I have a friend of mine is really good friends with what's her name again? She's from Tokyo Drift. I can't remember the first one that's like ready, set, but she's like a travel writer and does really well for herself. I wonder.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. I'm going to find out and I'm going to put it in the caption. Don't worry. Every time I can't figure shit out, I find out after the fact and I just put it in the caption.
We're just going to Google. Thank God that the internet exists so we don't have to remember shit.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure those models like have a story to tell. I remember when you went up to Seattle and you and I went to Hot Import Nights. And I remember, man, there was that model, Sasha Singleton. And she was at
yes.
God damn, man. It took a crew just to lift my jaw off the ground. I remember I was like, she was so good looking. But like, yeah, there was one too. Just for the youngins today, man, if you made like the cover of like Import Tuner, for example, as a import car model, you made it. That's like that was like our Sports Illustrated magazine cover. And so there was a lot of beautiful women back then, man. God bless them all. I hope they're all doing well and not driving Ultimas.
Maximas, maybe?
Whoa. I never saw the purpose for a Maxima. I'll be honest. Like, why was it invented? I know they're probably trying to compete with the Avalons and all that, but like, I don't know anybody who drove in a Maxima. Like, what is its purpose? Like, you would just buy an Ultima. Isn't it like practically the same power?
I think so. I don't know. It's like I think the Maximo is just like the more quote unquote refined version of the Ultima. I don't know. I don't know how you can refine dog shit, but Nissan tried. And
So
again, that's why they're being absorbed by another company.
yeah, I never saw the purpose of a Maxima. I don't know anyone who owns it, and I would hate to be
No.
the car salesman trying to sell it on someone. Like why? Why would you own this car? Like just get the Ultima. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, the Maxima is the car that you sell because the year is ending and you got to hit your numbers. So the dealership just incentivizes you like mad to just move units.
And look, and listen, if you're part of if you're like the president of the Nissan Maxima Owners Club, look, don't give us hate. We just tell us why the car is worth anything. I'd love to hear it, right? Yeah, but I put that car in the category of like the Geo Storm. Like, why was that car invented? Why? Who
Why
buys
did
that
Geo
car?
exist at all? I actually no, I take that back. The Geo Tracker, I think that was the stupid little baby Jeep that they had. When I was in like 8th grade, that looked like it was a hell of a lot of fun. But again, I was in 8th grade. I was an idiot, so yeah,
It was
maybe
just
it wasn't worth the shit.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure we could do a whole episode on redundant cars. Like why was this created? I don't get it. There's so many cars. Like, for example, like the Mazda was it MX-6? Was that what it was called? Like, I assume to compete
Yeah.
with the Nissan 240, even though a case could be made that the American spec Nissan 240SX was a complete piece of shit because nobody
Yes.
in their right mind would keep that KA24 engine. Um, but the MX was
No, it
fine.
was the excuse. The excuse was always, I want the most powerful, naturally aspirated 240 on the street, like that. Because in reality, they just couldn't. They couldn't afford. What was it, the SR20 that the
SR20s, yeah.
Japanese had? Yeah, they
But it's
couldn't
like,
afford it.
Nissan. See, they were dumb back then too. Like they can't use the excuse. They cannot use the excuse of well, it'd be too expensive to put the SR20 in there. You put it in the Sentra. Now, granted, a non-turbo form, but you put it in the Sentra, and then you give us the truck engine. The truck engine, I think it's what came in the Nissan King
The
Cabs.
torque monster, Brian. It was a torque monster.
Oh, it was
I
a
know. I
monster.
remember back in the day, you and I were looking at a potential 240 build, and we're trying to like part it out, and nothing. There was no justifiable reason to even
It was
try.
a tough sell because even then, it was so hard to find a stick shift version of that.
Right,
That was the
right,
difficulty. Yeah, and there was just no negotiations about that. We're gonna you don't get a automatic version of it like that. There's just no point.
right.
But yeah, just like the people who were lucky enough, for example, to get the first gen IS300 in a stick, then you can really have some
Oh,
fun.
that was the one with the little chronograph tack.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah, I
looked
thought that
nice.
was so cool.
I mean, the car itself was kind of anemic, but
Yeah,
it was a 2JZ, so you could
two
for
JZ, no shit.
for people who were around back then, that engine you could do so much with it. Like it was
Yep.
freaking insane. So if you could get that car with a stick, my God, you had turbo kits that could easily get that thing in the 4 500s, and relatively speaking, it wasn't that expensive.
Right.
So I mean,
Now I don't know. I think the biggest complaint with the IS300 or Altezza, if you want to be super JDM cool, it was kind of like a Japanese take on the 3 Series.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I don't know. See, I think that's unfair. I think the IS300 was the car Lexus or Toyota really needed at the time. And to be perfectly honest, I kind of liked it. Yeah, it was a little anemic. I think yeah, well, it came with the 3 liter. There was also a 2 liter. No, there were a couple 2 liters. I forget what the engine codes were. They weren't that special. But in terms of ergonomics, I thought it was a hell of a lot more comfortable than the 3 Series at the time. That chronograph tack though,
yeah.
I mean that thing belongs on my wall. I thought that was absolutely stunning, and that's
Yeah.
just one of those. That's just one of those things that we mentioned earlier. Doing the little things right. The tack was great. The shifter, again, if you were one of the fortunate ones that got the manual, is very tight, very clicky. That's something that at that price point, I don't think Honda ever had
No.
ever did properly. I mean, honestly, the only Honda that I'd never hated shifting was an S2000, but that came later. The Civics of the time were utter garbage
Yeah.
in terms of shifting feel, in terms of clutch feel. It would just put your foot all the way in down and pray you find where it grabs on the way out. Like it was just, I don't know, it's just kind of a mess. Toyota, I think, did everything right with the IS300. It's just one of those things, like we mentioned before, just doing things quietly, properly, and
Yeah.
telling absolutely no one about it.
Well, and you talk about like the chronograph tack and all that. At least, unlike Nissan, they're thoughtful enough to give you one. I will say.
Well, there's that.
I will say though, Mazda really did take the award though for like just best shifter. I mean, the Miatas,
Yep.
the RX-8 overall not a great car, but the transmission, the shifter,
Oh
it
yeah.
was top
Very
notch,
smooth.
man. Yeah, it was top notch. Very video game
And
like.
the shifter knob was actually in the shape of the rotor.
Yeah,
I thought that was adorable. But on the RX-8 shifting, it was like a well-oiled rifle bolt. I had no
yes,
complaints about that whatsoever.
that is the perfect way to describe it. Actually, yeah, that you're correct about that. But yeah, I mean the Miata's shifter was always universally praised, as was the handling. I mean, it got a little chunkier in the later years because of regulation and safety features.
Yeah, so did we.
Yeah, minus the safety features part. We don't do anything safe, unfortunately.
No.
But I felt like that was Mazda's persona. The handling was their thing. I mean, come on, RX-7 was just come on.
I can vouch for one of those.
Legendary.
Was handled all right.
But yeah, and then it's just a shame though that, in my opinion, what like Honda, Toyota, Lexus. So I mean Lexus, but Toyota, same thing. But like they kept their brand identity. Where
Yes.
Nissan, nope. Mazda, no. Well, Mitsubishi doesn't really have an identity right now. A lot of those Japanese car companies, they don't really have an identity. And Kia at least has the identity of like, okay, listen, we're affordable, fucker. And we happen to make pretty, our cars are actually reliable versus the 80s and 90s now. And they happen to look pretty hip. That's their identity. If anything, their brand identity is stronger than Hyundai, in my opinion, the parent company. So, but yeah, like Toyota, strong reputation, man. You know they're going to be reliable. Are they going to stand out in the crowd? No, not really.
No, not at all.
They're like the girl in high school that's like a 6, but she lets you cheat off her test, right? She's reliable. Yeah,
I was a nerd in high school. Well, I'm still a nerd now. The reliable girl in high school always wanted me to let her cheat off me. And like an idiot, I was like, oh, maybe if I do it, she'll really like me this time.
Well, you as a nerd, what, like fucking like in The Simpsons, McBain, when he's like undercover nerd? Man, only nerd that bullied the jocks? Well, actually, you were a jock, though.
I wasn't jock.
You were a jock. Ogre?
Yeah, nobody liked me. The jocks thought I was too nerdy. The nerds, well, we didn't really have nerds in my high school. We had goody two-shoes, but whatever.
And then, like, the other thing would be, like, where is this country going to go? I think it's the eternal question right now with a hybrid, a full electric, internal combustion engines. Where are they going to go? I mean, California's, they've drawn a line in the sand for 2035, I think it is.
Yeah, they're going to redraw that line. They need to. I mean, and I can talk plenty of shit about California because I lived there I grew up there. I lived there for far too long. Honestly, they don't have the electrical infrastructure to support an all-electric vehicle fleet. They don't have the electrical infrastructure to support what demand they have now. ultimately, when you try to legislate a solution, all you get is garbage. And I mean, we talked about this a little bit, before. Uh, Look, I hate EVs. In case I haven't made that painfully obvious by now, I absolutely despise everything about them. I think what you're going to end up seeing is just fewer cars on the road,
Really?
which serves the interests of the legislators who themselves are not subject to the laws they pass. Uh, but no, it's the thing with EVs. Like, yeah, they're expensive. They're anemic. They almost all of them look like complete shit. The only EV I would ever be caught dead in, I think, is the Remats, the Croatian electric supercar. Yeah, I would prefer the one that Richard Hammond did not drive off a cliff if I had a choice. But the simple fact is that nothing about them suits the kind of culture that we have created as a country of convenience, of immediacy, and of satisfaction. EVs are like a donut. Nobody ever feels better about themselves after they eat a donut. A pile of cookies, a bowl of ice cream, cake. What? Yeah, there's a poison for every sweet tooth. Donuts only make you feel like shit. EVs are the equivalent of that, and to be perfectly honest, what I see is more people probably just give up. Like, oh, if this is my fucking option, why bother? Why even bother having a car at all?
But what percentage, though, do you think of people who buy EVs do so because they actually believe they're helping the planet? See,
I would probably say a disturbingly high amount, um, but it's just one of those things where if you don't look at how the sausage gets made, all you care about is the taste. And
yep.
the simple fact is that even if you move past the recharge rate, even if you and that's already a tall order. I'm never going to move past the fact that it takes me hours to recharge a car that I can fill up with otherwise fill up with gas in 10 minutes. Like,
Yes.
no, fuck you. Uh, but no, it's one of those things where people refuse to look at the problem, and I don't want to stray too much off our topic here, but you're not helping the planet with an EV because we're a natural gas driven economy. Don't like it?
Mhm.
Tough shit. That's what the stats say. If you truly care about clean energy and you want to drive a clean car, for the love of God, support hydrogen instead. And not just because Toyota and Honda lead the world in hydrogen tech, although that certainly helps. It's the only logical solution in my mind, my not so humble opinion. Or I don't know, just deal with the fact that petrol, gasoline, and diesel, whichever flavor you have, is really freaking hard to beat in terms of energy density. This is kilowatts, kilojoules per kilogram. Um, if for our American audience, freedoms per bald eagle, you're never going to get that with batteries. You're not even going to get that with hydrogen. Uh, and that's just kind of the way physics works. I didn't invent the damn thing, so I'm not the one to take up your complaints with. But no, California, I think, has lost its mind with this emissions crap, and I think they'll end up solving the problem in ways they don't expect. I think they'll end up cutting emissions because more and more people will say, you know what, I've fucking had it with this state. I'm leaving, and I'm never coming back.
I think, unfortunately, as most people know, as a culture, and just I would just say in general, as people, the worst of us sometimes are the ones in power, and they get to decide when change happens. And unfortunately, change happens when it's like the atomic clock is like a minute from midnight, so to speak. Where we
Yeah.
got to be. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, I don't know anything about economics and all that. I just thought if something's dangerous, you stop it, and when something's good, you increase it. And so something when I was a child, I never freaking understood was the whole Superman origin story. Not about him coming to Earth, but the fact that this advanced civilization basically mined the hell out of its own planet to the point where, like, I guess we're all gonna die, right? And because like they did that shit where like they started to explore other planets, but decided no, let's just stick to our planet, even though we have the technology. No, let's just drill the shit out of our planet. Oh,
Yep.
and then guess what?
Destabilize the core.
Yeah, then they send baby Kal-El to Earth, and it's like, okay. But then as I got older, I'm like, yeah, we would do the same shit. We would do the same
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, where we come up with a solution, we come up with the most asinine fucking solutions, so that even those who want to move on from fossil fuels are like, yeah, that's a horrible idea. That wouldn't actually help. So, like, yeah, let's just say for the sake of argument that somehow like the fossil fuel people are gonna like bring about the apocalypse in like 300 years or something like that. The alternative, like you said, the power grid, it can't take it. I mean, what
Correct.
with like power usage being what it is and all that, and California known for its blackouts and brownouts and all that stuff.
I was gonna say, when you get your utility bill, do they still have that stupid cartoon on the back of the envelope of flex your power with the light switch being turned off?
It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I
But
always thought
yeah,
that was a slap. Fuck you. You flex your power by making more of it. How's
yeah,
that sound?
it's bad, man. But people, I think EV people are now learning, because it used to be, remember, you got a Tesla. Elon was setting up all those charging stations, but they'd always be empty because nobody had a Tesla, right?
Correct.
But that damn bastard knew what he was doing because he's setting up the infrastructure. But now,
Exactly.
good luck if you have a non-Tesla. You're going around like, what's it like? What's that like? Electrify America, I think, is one. There's others, but like the consensus, it seems to be that a lot of times you go there and like at least one of the chargers ain't working. And so,
right,
like you say, you gave a very, very conservative. You said thing about like, oh, about 10 minutes I can fill my car. Yeah, that's if you're at Costco. If you go to like a local gas station, you're out in like 2 minutes, man.
yep.
Right? Like it doesn't take long. But like even if you're in line at Sam's Club, Costco, one of those, yeah, 10 minutes, but that's fair because you're saving money too. So,
Well, yeah.
but an EV one, no, you gotta. It's a lesson in time management. And
Right.
I'm sorry, but like, let's just say, give the example of the whole topic we started this whole episode on was entry level sporty compacts. Let's say Toyota or one of them was like, we're gonna put out like the Celicas, all electric. Are you fucking kidding me? You're going to put that in the hands of the generation that has the least amount of patience and the worst time management skills, and you're going to have them handle that car? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
No. They'll go under just like Nissan are.
They're going to have an anxiety attack just when they realize how long they have to wait, because now they're going to go to the charging stations and they're like, that's the line?
Yep.
And knowing it's going to take like 30 minutes per car, and that's being conservative, right?
That's the line to get to the charger to then wait.
Correct. My nephew,
and that's the thing, that's not how you make progress. And I get people like, oh well, cars are the biggest emitters of pollution. Okay, yeah, that's fine. There's something called the EIA. Data are free. Look it up. That is a correct statement. You know what the second biggest emitter of pollution is? The power generation. Well, yeah. Well, that's a distant third. But no, the second biggest emitter, power generation. Well, one of those problems seems a hell of a lot easier to solve to me. Yeah, I'm just a dumb engineer. And of course, they're attempting to solve the wrong one, because I think it's easier for legislators to mandate down. Like, I don't know, if if I were a multi-billion-dollar company and you tried to legislate down to me, I'd lobby the fuck. I would get you thrown out of whatever shithole office you're sitting in, and you would never have a career in politics. You wouldn't even be elected to to be a school crossing guard. But the consumer is a softer target, so that's what they pursue. And can you blame them for that? Well, yes, you can and you should. But at the same time, like, what do you expect? These people want to continue their career in legislation, so they need to show results. It just so happens that if you're the softer target, you're the result they get to show. So you get uh, these idiotic mandates, like well, we will not have the sale of fossil fuel powered internal combustion vehicles by 2035. Never mind, it's going to take longer than, well, currently we're still in 2024. It's going to take longer than 11 years to fix that state's fucked up power grid.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Nobody's looking ahead. And, I told you, this is one of those few times where I truly wish I ran an automotive OEM, because I would be the biggest prick possible. So, you know what? Okay, California, you're a sack of shit. You want to outlaw the sale of internal combustion engines? Fine. Hey, consumers, if you buy one of my electric shit boxes, you are entered into a raffle to potentially win an 800 horsepower twin turbo fuel swilling 5 mile a gallon ultra car. And just, you know what? Here's, where the address is for the governor's mansion. Just go roll coal all day long. It's not technically a sale. But no, it's things like that are absolutely idiotic, and they're not going to solve anything.
No, and that's the thing. I think it should be a challenge. If you're a young person now and you want to create something better, go out there and do it. Lord knows a lot of your peers ain't doing it. They're not built to that kind of stuff, unfortunately. So be that difference maker, man. Go out and because, man, look, we might be pricks sometimes, but we're not.
Sometimes.
But I don't want to withhold resources or experiences from the next generation. I would love it if, once again, let's say there's a 20-something-year-old version of us somewhere out there. I want them to be able to experience what we experienced in that golden era of car tuning and all that. Fuck, that'd be awesome. When you got all these idiots just doing those street shutdowns and just doing donuts and they smack each other and all that. That's not even driving. It's just I don't know what you would call it. It's just like an after party somewhere, right? But the actual car community was actually a thriving and very, very supportive community. You get to make friends that stay your friends. There's the camaraderie, the scene, all of that, man. It was awesome. I want that for people. I want people to be able to have their car tribe, right? People used to do the car cruise and all that back then. It was awesome, right? Obviously.
But we don't need to bring back everything. Let's not bring back clear corners or big mouth body kits. Some things can stay.
The Altezza taillights.
Yeah, some things can stay relegated to the annals of history.
Yeah. That some stuff can be forgotten, but those really organic experiences, man. I want that for people, and and look, God bless those people who have a bunch of online friends and all that. And listen, for some people, I get it. Okay, it's fine. I get it, but man, if you got the ability, and I know some people are introverts, they're shy. I mean, I'm a freaking introvert, man. But sometimes being able to go somewhere where it's you're scared you're gonna be judged, but you go there, everyone's like, "Hey, what's up, man? My name's Bryan. How you doing?" You know what? You realize it ain't as bad as you think, and then again, you got that camaraderie. You're gonna learn. It's you might again, if everybody's broke, you know what? Who's really valuable is the guy who buys something. And everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, dude, is it good? Is it good? Is that exhaust good? Let's hear it." Now they can hear. They're like, "Oh, I think I want to get that." It's that kind of camaraderie, and I don't know if it's still around today. If it is, shit, maybe you and I are gonna go do some investigative work. Hell, I was
I mean, and
thinking,
we really owe it to our audience, right? We
I,
can't possibly leave that uninvestigated.
man, the 5 people that watch this show would be really happy if we did, man. Just like, you know what, you got me thinking the other week about, maybe we should take if we try to pass ourselves off as journalists and go to Hunterport nights. And you said it was Vegas, or was it LA?
Uh, I think I want to say it's Vegas. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that Hot Import Nights is still around. I looked it up on a lark because somebody else was. I don't know. We got to talking about the good old days that you never realize are the good old days when you're in them. And I was trying to explain, like, yes, once upon a time we paid hard earned money to go to convention centers, packed wall to wall with slammed import cars and pretty girls. And there's no, oh, I mean, there was social media at the time. If you were a college student, that was the only way to get on Facebook. And MySpace, I don't know. Nobody ever fought for my top 8 spaces, so I don't care. Uh, but yeah, and I googled it for them because they wouldn't believe me, and I was thinking, I'm gonna find something on the Wayback Machine or something. I was like, oh my god, no, this is still a thing. Uh, God knows what it's like, but it purely in the interest of fan service and collecting data for the audience. I would love to see what it's like.
We
these
should.
days.
We should go. And for some reason, I just have this like complete ridiculous notion that like there's still going to be like 25 year
Sasha
old.
Singleton's gonna show up.
No, but in 25-year-old form, it's like on Saturday Night Live when the late great Norm
Yeah.
Macdonald was like on that
Yes.
the Jeopardy, but he was always playing Burt Reynolds, but he was always 1970s Burt Reynolds, even though it's modern times. Yeah, I'm just picturing that, like Courtney
I don't
Days.
know. I think her now probably looks better than we did in our 20s. So
You're probably right, but man, because yeah, some of these import models, like there's part of me that's curious, but I also know that I won't be rewarded I will not be rewarded for my faith. They're not going to be as hot. They're not all going to be like Courtney Day, who like hasn't aged at all, But yeah, some of them.
let's not forget the second law of thermodynamics, right? Entropy. Entropy must always increase to the maximum. So,
Yeah, so I don't know, but I think it'd be cool, man. Why not? I mean, man, hey, if I could get us press passes, then that would be a well. First of all,
oh shit.
that would be a slap in the face to Walter Cronkite and real journalism, but it would be to our benefit.
Well, I mean, technically, this podcast might count as press credentials, right?
And for anyone who visits our social media, if you see those really intelligent quotes with actual car news, that's this guy over here. If you see some really like awesome looking AI generated stuff that actually doesn't offer any new information except my ode to the 80s, that'd be me. So yeah, informative stuff, Willie. The stuff that takes you back in time because you hate present day, yeah, that's me. That's totally me. If we're up to me, the 80s would have been just a loop. It hit 1989 and it goes back to 1980, right? But yeah,
Just this eternal cycle of neon, shitty cars, and cocaine, and like
correct,
white leisure suits.
correct. That is correct. And you and I would just be Crockett and Tubbs. That's how it would be, man.
Now, would we age? I mean, I don't know. In 1989, I was 10, so I don't think I could pull off in Miami Vice. I wouldn't have been able to reach the pedals on a Testarossa.
We'll make it work. But yeah, man. I mean, look, we all I think resonate with we're drawn to a certain decade and all that, and that the fact that we were kids in the 80s is the whole reason I like the 80s, because I imagine myself as a grown person. Granted, there were a lot of vices back then, sure, but there's a lot of cool shit too. So
Absolutely.
that's my logic. But yeah,
Yeah, the 15-pound portable telephone.
correct.
Well, and I think you kind of hit on a point there in terms of the community. Just dawned on me because I'm slow, much like most modern cars. Um, I think part of the reason why it'd be so hard to resurrect any form of what we had growing up in terms of the meetups and whatnot. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get my first cell phone until like 2003, and it was one of those little stupid Nextel walkie-talkie fucking things because they were cheap.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
like chirp somebody, it didn't count against your minutes.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's
You're
like, yeah,
right.
you actually had to go out and talk to people. Like, oh, you got the apex blow off valve with the port that can swallow a small child. What does that actually sound like? You can just go on YouTube and
Yeah.
see it for yourself. I think I honestly think social media and technology could help rekindle that. I don't think it has to be an either or. It could be some like, hey, I read this thing, on whatever forum, subreddit, whatever the hell, whatever your poison is. Is this what you've experienced? Right, like you have access to all this
Yeah.
information, but you combine that with a sense of community. Everybody could theoretically win.
You're right. Man, that is a great point. You're right, because it would be word of mouth. It would just be like, "Hey, we're meeting up here." Yeah, that is true. Whereas now, there's like what I call like the synthetic experience, where it's like you don't actually have to be there because so many people, thanks to social media and all that, they live vicariously through others.
Right.
And yeah, that's true, man. Damn. That would, yeah, you're right. I wonder what the alternative would be then, because so many people feel comfortable getting the online experience versus the in person, and it's
Sure.
relegated to like car clubs and things like that. Which once again, it's I'm not saying it's right, but it's a convenience for the wealthy, right? Like
Right.
that's why they have like those rallies, are like unofficial rallies, but it's more of like a ride along, like you tag along. It's just guys in supercars with obscene amounts of money, and most of the time, the car really just acts as the it's like the like it's just the vessel that like gets everybody together, but it's more of like this brotherhood. It's like the catalyst, so to speak, of hey, let's get together and do a 100-mile rally from like like California to like Vancouver or something like that, right? And it's like, oh man, that's pretty cool. Something like that,
Or the
right?
Silver State Classic Challenge.
Silver State Classic, yeah,
Yeah, I don't give a damn how much meta XR AR AI bullshit you have. There's nothing that's gonna beat the actual feeling of tearing ass down Highway 318 in Nevada, and smelling your tires disintegrating as you try to beat no one but the clock. And that's the beauty of things like that. You can bring
yeah,
your clapped out grocery grabber. Like there's a class for everybody.
yeah, man. I mean, there was that one ridiculous rally where it's meant for like shitty cars, so it's not supposed to be like
Yeah, the
500.
24 hours of lemons.
Yeah, something like that. But again, even if that's it, like that's a cool experience, right? I know SCCA. We used to do like those unofficial rallies where like you say you're just beating
Yeah,
the clock. That's it. But you're meant.
yeah, the road
It's meant.
rallies.
Yeah, but it was meant to be legal. So it's like you weren't trying to get there fast. You're trying to get there at exactly the right time,
Yep,
assuming the speed limit. And so that
which is
was
a lot harder than you might think.
a lot harder than people think. But there was a camaraderie about that, and I think it's really cool. Like my buddy Min, who I've invited onto the podcast, he does autocross like up in Honolulu, and
Oh
he's got
hell
this.
yeah!
It's got like a whole brotherhood out there, and it's a very cool thing for people who can afford it and all that. But that's the thing, is the affordability, because people are broke right now, man. I feel bad for young
Yeah.
people. Well, except when I find out they're lazy. But like,
Well, the median new car price is 40 grand, and that ain't that ain't a Porsche. Okay, median Econo shitbox right now is right around 40K. Like
but
that's insulting
but I
that
will
you have to
say
pay
this.
that much money for so little.
But I will say this though, man. I was just talking with my brother earlier, and as you know, all my siblings through goddamn peer pressure, they're the ones that got me to buy a Beamer. I love it, by the way, but I wasn't a BMW guy, but all my siblings have them. And I remember at one point, my brother, my sister, we're all just, they live, I don't live in the same state as them, but we all got together, all tight, and we just all kind of looked back and we're like, you know, we all remember a time we were broke as shit, right?
Yep.
And but now we're like this BMW family and everything. It's really freaking cool. Wow, black ones. But well, except for my brother David, he cheated. He has two BMWs. He has a silver one too. But like,
Bastard.
we never thought we would be at that point where where we'd be like, wow, And so we don't take shit for granted. And so when I joke around and I talk about people being broke, just know that I was flat broke at one point, and I could barely afford the gas in my econo car. So it's just, that's why, like I said, man, I want these really awesome experiences for our listeners. I don't give a shit how old you are. Although, in fairness, if you're really old, but you never were into cars, man, that's gonna be rough, man. That's gonna be hard. That's gonna be harsh because that is like a midlife crisis at that point, because you're not reliving something. You're trying to create new memories. But like for young people, I'm not saying go break laws, but like do what you were saying about go to a racing school, do it legally, do whatever, but get that rush. But the real thing, buy a car, be friends with people who are into cars. You can you go on YouTube and all that, find all the stuff. That's awesome. But you know what's even awesomer is when you see the item right there. You brought up last time about Super Autobox. That's how I decided some of the stuff I was going to buy, because you could go there, you could actually touch the exhaust. You're like, damn, this thing's really light or it's really heavy. The strut bars, you could see which ones were really light, like those titanium ones, right? But the average tuning shop back then did not have that many things on hand. You had to order it, see? So, but then if you're in a crew with some guys or you do meetups, you can actually see like, oh, those rims are nice, or what if they're really cool. Like you could see the items in person, and there's just something to that where you can touch it. It's real. It's not just this virtual thing that's virtual until you buy it. Then you buy it, you're like, I don't like it. See?
You get buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse.
Well, there's also something. Yeah. I mean, there's just something about seeing things in person. I mean, I know, where the hell was I? I went to some place in Pasadena for Chow years ago, and there's like what you just said. It's an impromptu car meetup. It was a couple guys with the old BMW 2002s.
Yeah.
One was like this tangerine orange color with like this jet black interior. It looks slick as shit. And I think it was, I think the rims were bronze or something. Or maybe the black car had the bronze rims. I think that would make more sense.
I'm a little biased, but I like bronze rims on a Beamer.
But I mean, again, here we are in the age of social media. Watch these people just start, chattering with their buddies, and next thing you know, 10 minutes later, there's a couple Datsun 510s with rotaries pulling up, and I'm sitting there going like, oh my god, it's happening. It's like my teenage years are coming back. But it doesn't have to be. I don't think it has to be an either or. But you're absolutely right. There's just something, again, very visceral about seeing and hearing. And this is going to sound weird to people who've never experienced it. Smelling these things in person. Like there's a reason why we don't have lead in gasoline anymore. There's a reason why California hate internal combustion. Like, you uncork these things, like, there's a certain aroma that accompanies high performance. And it's just, it's very rewarding, but it's also, I think it has so much value to people of our age or older, because it harkens back to a simpler time. Like, there was a time where you could fix a problem by popping the hood on a Saturday morning and coming out, smelling like armpit and motor oil. It gives you a sense of power and control.
And when you did that, your male neighbors all congregated, even if it was just to smoke a cigarette and to stare under the hood, even if they didn't know what the hell it was.
Yeah, we all pretended to know what the fuck you were doing. But like, your little squiggy wiggy valve there looks loose. You gotta recap your alternator.
But it just brought men together, right? It was like this lure, if you will. And so I don't know if that happens today these days. I don't know. I mean, I hope, but I mean, who knows, man? People don't even talk to their neighbors anymore, so I don't know. But yeah, we talk about that. That's why for people who are listening, if they think we're biased towards the golden age, it's because we fucking are. But because
you would be too if you lived it.
Yeah, because you talk about these proud men and their S2000s, RX-7s, and Supras. Today, I don't. Other than exotics, what do you brag about having? Because if you brag about having a Supra, and like I don't want to disrespect the new Supra, but it doesn't carry the same weight as 1993, and you say I've got a Toyota Supra.
Well, don't worry, the new Supra is now the old Supra because it's discontinued. So
yeah, well, I heard they're making a new one though. I heard but Toyota's doing it 100% in house. I heard.
Good.
But yeah, so I'm like, I don't know what car people could brag about. What, the Hellcats? Dude, you got dudes who like are on general relief that own Hellcats, so there's nothing to brag about. Go to any like housing project, you're gonna find a Hellcat somewhere in there. Somebody lying about their income, right? Taking out a car loan, like a 30-year car loan, and yeah.
Oh god,
it's horrible, but you're not gonna turn heads in that. See, I mean, I'm just wondering, what do you think? What is a real head-turning car today? That, again, that's not an exotic, like that people would be like, wow.
Ooh, well, that's a good one. I mean,
people don't give a shit about people don't even give a shit about GTRs anymore. You roll one of those, no one cares.
Right.
There's nothing cool about a 10-year-old car that has no advancements.
I mean, I don't really think people gave that much of a shit back when the GTR first came out.
It was fast, but it looked like shit.
It did look like shit. It looked like you know the clay models that the artists make. They start with like the blocks of clay, and then they carve away whatever is not the car, and they're supposed to end up with this really sexy shape. The GTR looked like that process was interrupted by some union mandated lunch break, and the sculptor just never came back.
You're a lot nicer than me. I just thought it looked like an electric shaver. I thought it looked like an electric shaver.
Sure.
Look at the rear to the front. Looked like a fucking like an electric shaver, man. So
yeah,
it was fast. I got to give it that. It was very fast. But it was interesting because that car debuted at an interesting time. It was the worst timing in terms of interior car design. I know they made this big deal because I want to say that it was the interior was designed by like the Gran Turismo people, but that came at this time where the next generation of interiors was like those nice LCD screens that Mercedes does really well and all that, and then immediately that car became outdated. You see, I was like, oh, ouch. It was, imagine if you were like the last carburetor engine to roll off the assembly line. You're like, yeah, and then like tomorrow you find out, yeah, we ain't doing that shit no more. It's like, thanks, right? And so it wasn't that advanced, and it did not stand the test of time. Nissan is not known for making very posh interiors. A lot of hard plastics, ergonomics. It's not great. So yeah, I mean, they are definitely not anywhere near like Toyota quality, Lexus quality, Honda quality in terms of that. You know, their better days are behind them, which goes back to what we said earlier. Like, what does Honda stand to gain? You know, just other than maybe they got a chip at the big game in terms of the government. Like, you know, when they have a scandal, maybe now the government will cover it up because they did them a solid. That's all I can think of.
But they need to have a scandal first.
Yeah, the old Tokyo two-step. So I don't know, man. I don't know what else. And plus, shit, man, you can be a CEO that you're gonna oversee Nissan. You want to be the next Carlos Ghosn, you know? Where I don't know, man. So I hope it works because, in fairness, as much as I don't like modern Nissan, we can't discredit what they did. They motorsports. They were awesome with the old Skylines. The Fair Lady 300Z was a beautiful car.
240 was still one of the most beautiful cars ever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always gonna remember Nissans though, because my dad had a Nissan King Cab pickup truck back in the day, and It wasn't beautiful. It smelled like an ashtray when he drove it, but I have a core memory attached to it. So,
Yeah.
and the Mitsubishi, like, damn, man. I used to be like, they're a guy, man. Only person that was more of a Mitsubishi fan than me was probably Jackie Chan. I had so many of their Mitsus. Some of them were shit, I'll admit it, but the ones that were good were great. And it's sad that they'll never get back to that. They'll never. I actually, this pains me to say that I have more faith in Nissan than I do Mitsubishi. So it's sad.
Well, I
I
think
don't know,
Mitsubishi gave up. Well, they stopped making the Evo in 2015,
something like
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the death knell. Subi haven't made the still very extremely poorly named STI. Stop making that in 22. No, I mean short of an exotic, I don't think there's anything that still stands out. I don't know if Mazda still make the Miata
I think
or
they do.
Fiat. They okay, or if Fiat make the 124 still. But I think standing out, you know, I think what stands out these days are the older, the classical, well, classic meaning early to mid 90s, which is, dating us, I think.
Sad.
Is
Yeah.
cars from that era that have managed to survive into the modern age, whether or not they've been modified. And I think, what'll stand out in the future is cars that are, internal combustion that actually have any semblance of character about them, and
Do you
that's
remember?
it's kind of
Do you
sad.
remember the ending of Demolition Man? Remember when he's chasing towards the end? He's chasing Simon Phoenix, but he finds that restored muscle car.
Yeah,
Right? It'll be like that's what you're talking about right there.
yeah,
Like, it's like, isn't it like that sort of like masculine urge to get to the point
to
in your
bleed
life
out here. Oh,
where like you drive in it's like a far future, everyone's got an electric car, but the masculine urge to take a mentee of yours, an understudy, back to your garage, and in the corner is a car that's covered up in a tarp, and then you unveil it, and it's like an internal combustion engine.
it's a black Charger. So much torque, the chassis twist coming off the line.
Exactly. But in your case, it'd be like RX-7 or something like that. For
Oh
me,
hell
it'd be
yeah!
like, it would probably be the Eclipse. I know it's too easy to say the Evo, but like it'd be like the Eclipse or something. It's something raw, so 90s. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
like
16-inch cruise ship steering wheel
yeah,
on that.
exactly. I remember like a while back, I emailed you that long little fake movie premise after I watched Top Gun Maverick, and it was like this idea that like for some stupid reason the government brings me back to drive an Eclipse because we live in a generation that can't drive stick. They can't handle a turbocharged all-wheel drive, so it's like me against these fifth generation rally cars with like the latest tech. As sad as it is, I mean, it's like that. It's like the way Space Cowboys, where like they need to bring
Oh yeah,
the old astronauts back because only they know how to handle that old tech. But yeah,
yep.
it's gonna get to be like that, man. One day Mitsubishi like decides, you know what, we're gonna start rally art again. We're gonna get back into racing, but they got to get like a 70-year-old Tommy Mäkinen because none of the young drivers, they're just like they're like, oh, what's this, man? It's a 6-speed. I don't know how to work it. Where are the paddles at?
What is this thing? It's called a key. You shove it in there and you turn it, and that's how you
Well,
turn the car on.
well, this generation don't know how to do anything that requires inserting and thrusting and turning anything on. So yeah,
Oh my god!
I mean, I think the fertility rates back me up on that one. But anyway,
Sadly,
well, yeah, we'll save that for our next podcast, men and broads. But yeah, you think we make it to a third episode, Willie?
well, we haven't been canceled yet, so obviously we're not trying hard enough to offend people.
Well, in fairness, I don't know. I got a feeling, and maybe this will be a topic for one of our other podcasts, but Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be quite as easy to cancel people in the next 4 years. I just have a suspicion that people are gonna have a slightly thicker skin, and freedom of speech might actually be freedom of speech. I'm just saying.
You
I
mean
know it's
freedom of speech? Freedom of speech might trump cancellation efforts.
Jesus Christ, man! I was trying to be subtle.
You? No, I mean you're probably right, and honestly, as depressing as it may be to say, I think the best days are behind us. I can't. Part of me refuses to accept that. I think. I think the fact that so many OEMs have pulled back from electric only because I don't know, maybe they realize that EVs suck and what a pain in the ass they would be to live with en masse. Right. Again, when you have millions and millions of people doing this. I think that's hopeful. I think Porsche coming out and officially taking a stance that we will make internal combustion engines as long as they're not outlawed. I think that's a very hopeful ray of light. I think I don't know. As much as legislation like California's pisses me off because it's just misguided and stupid. You know, a big part of me still believes that at the end of the day, the market's always going to win, right? And if it comes down to, you know what, we're pushing this agenda, I was like, well, you know what, asshole, I'm a voter, and I think your agenda's stupid. So change it or find a new job. My hope is that a lot of these regulations, a lot of these laws get thrown in the garbage bin where they belong.
I think the CEO of Jaguar prays that you're wrong. Because
well, I pray that he remembers what the hell the point of his company is.
You know, it's one of those things where, for all my shitting on Mitsubishi and Nissan earlier, I have so little hope or even faith that Jaguar is going to pull, is going to even make it after 5 years. That's me being very optimistic of what they're doing, because they're asking for you to pay luxury prices for something that does not outdo the competition, offers nothing new. And if you're going to appeal to, well, it's inclusivity. Yeah, how did that work for Disney? You know, having like the worst years. And if you're a Disney stock owner, you probably never thought you'd see the day where you'd be losing money, first of all.
Right.
But like, you can't guilt trip people into spending $100,000. That's not going to work. It didn't work then. It's definitely not going to work in the coming years, right? And so I don't know, because it's like if you're in the 100, hypothetically, and this would be a question for people listening. If you have a $150,000 car budget, so that means you're doing well for yourself. So like that's to say it's affordable, not like you're going broke buying it. You have 150,000.
Yeah, more importantly, you have the budget to maintain it.
To maintain
after you acquire it.
What's the car you would actually buy? That's what I want to ask people. What's the car you would actually buy? And it ain't gonna be a Jag. You know?
No.
Like, remember, I've told you in the past, I would love to have my next car be a Jaguar F-Type, top of the line.
Mm-hmm.
That would be just marginally over $100,000, because once you go to 150, then you'd be looking at an Aston Martin, right? And even then, you'd be sniffing the bottom of the barrel of the Aston Martins. But these new Jags would be about 150 though, and so they're effectively more expensive than what they currently have. But are they giving you the same thrill? No, there's no identity. It used to be raw British power, right? There's something British about these things. If anything, these new Jags look like something Cruella de Vil would drive, right? it doesn't look cool. I'm thinking, who would drive that? Like, I don't know. I don't know who's the target audience. Like, are they trying to appeal to, like, to let's say the LGBT population, because they're pretty on the nose about the trans colors on their concept cars, right?
Yeah, even I was able to pick up on that, and I'm pretty dense.
But like, my thing is, would that community buy it though? Because I know like the people I know from the LGBT community, like they like Teslas, they love Subarus,
Oh yeah.
but those cars, at least for their purposes, serve a particular function, right? The Teslas, God bless all Tesla owners. They think they're saving the environment, So at least there's, hey, misguided faith is still faith. And the Subarus, very functional. You can attest to that. Very, very functional utilitarian cars. Makes sense. That's very, very responsible, and it happens to be a good purchase. But the Jags, like, no, I don't know who would buy it, dude. And I worry because that company has a lineage, and it sucks to see something just flame out. Well, okay, not literally because they're not internal combustion engines anymore, but like, it's just they've desecrated their heritage. It's like at that point, why not just create like a Rivian, Lucid, right? Because your old Jag customers aren't going to be your new Jag customers. There's no connective tissue, right? It's not like I mentioned like that lineal thing earlier. It's not the lineal successor to anything. So I do not know.
Maybe it doesn't need to succeed at all. Maybe it's just time to sunset.
Maybe Honda end up buying them.
In 5 years' time, maybe. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was able to go to a AMC showroom because I never have. Sometimes some brands just need to be put out to pasture after they've passed not just their glory days, but any semblance of trying to be relevant, let alone useful or desirable. Maybe Jag have finally reached that point.
Take it easy. Take it easy there, Ra's al Ghul. You're like, Jaguar's time has come, like Constantinople and Rome before it. It has to be allowed to die.
Well, I mean, didn't they say they were taking a year off from making cars completely? I guess to find more stupid fonts.
Perfectly good decision for a car company, No fiduciary obligation to the shareholder whatsoever. Where does that all go on fucking vacation? Yeah.
Well, except for the font designers. I think the Type Foundry is going to be working overtime.
Oh, you mean that kindergartner they probably hired to design it? Yeah. Like that kid. Anyway, we've offered our thoughts on the state of the automotive industry and what we think.
And if you disagree, tough shit.
Yeah, exactly. We gave our thoughts on like the compact market that's going to come, and I think you and I we'll take a wait and see approach, right? And if it can bring back any semblance of the golden era, I'm all for it. I want to see people actually experiencing real camaraderie again. That would be really sweet. Hopefully, I mean, I heard a rumor that the next Fast and the Furious movie is going to actually return to its street racing roots. Maybe that'll work.
Oh, I thought I was like, what? Well, they've already been to space. Like, what the hell are they going to do with the next one?
Maybe they'll blend it with like Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Oh
I don't know, man. They'll have Toretto fight the T-Rex from Jurassic World, right? It'll be the match.
He's gonna win because the T-Rex doesn't understand family.
That and he has I believe he has a no lose clause in his contract where he can't lose a fight.
Oh my god!
But yeah, I don't know, man. But hey, it worked for me, man. I can't shit on the movie too much because the first one because it was influential for all of its flubs, but
yeah,
it worked. I mean, it worked. They
only made 2 movies, right? It was the first one in Tokyo Drift. Everything else was a fever dream.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure.
You're absolutely correct about that. It's like I can't believe the studio never thought to even do a trilogy or a series with it. I can't believe they stopped that. Yeah. It's so sad that Paul Walker was a one and done. At least Vin was in Tokyo Drift at the end. It's sad, man. But yeah, hey, Mitsubishi got both movies got their hero cars, so
that's true.
And that was the last time anybody ever gave a shit about Mitsubishi. But
sadly.
Anyway, thank you for our 5 listeners that are listening right now. We appreciate
We're making 6 for the next episode.
Ooh, whoa, man! Oh, so you're making your girlfriend watch it then? That's 6. Nice. So, all right, guys. Keep motoring and learn to drive stick. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.